first ever Zoom remote pandemic reunion for Duster Magic. Guys, this would have been 20 years. 20 years ago, we had our first meeting. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a 4-hour meeting in 2 hours. Know that this is going to be recorded, and that as always, if you have any commercial agenda with anything, disclose any bias that you might have. We're going to have two panels. One is the state of children's interactive media on sort of a consumer level. And then another panel is the school point of view. And so as I looked through the participants, I realized that we've got some people who can really help us understand what's going on. And then in theory, we're going to end at 2 o'clock, although I'd like to, I'll keep going as long as it takes. We created a couple back channel things, including there is a resource exchange document. You're also welcome to add your own links at the bottom. Also, I just designed a class. I'm going to be offering a mini course called The Methods of Fred Rogers. And this comes out of the work that began back when Rick Fernandez brought me in as a senior fellow at the Rogers Center. I've since taught a full semester class on the methods of Fred Rogers, and it was amazing. And I realized this is important. We start by reading Max King's book. We use that as our textbook, and we start by watching the documentary. So I want to just begin with some general trends, just like I would if I was standing at the inn at Lambertville Station. So let me drop these on you guys, and then I'll turn it over to the rest of you. First of all, a thank you. I was quarantined for 3 months with my grandson, and I designed the ultimate iPad. And I saw the power of these apps for this kid, for my experiment. He's now 2. His birthday is in a couple weeks. Currently, he thinks he's Woody, so he wears a hat and cowboy boots, and that's it. And so I just want to say thank you to Jason in this case, because I saw how he's using Jason's apps, and also he's hatched about 7,000 caterpillars in My Very Hungry Caterpillar. Some of you, the work that you guys do is so important. Lyndon was a wonderful wake-up call to me for the importance and the power that you have as an interactive media designer and creator. You can reach so many children. This is a heartfelt thank you for making a difference in my grandson's life. Screen time, as you guys know, is now a basic need. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that it's right up there. Having a screen, it went from something bad. I know, is David Kleeman, did he find his way on here yet?
I'm here.
Great, David. It's like, it's now like there with toilet paper. You gotta have it. And just ask somebody who doesn't have connectivity right now. I've been watching with amazement as the entire US school system and university system has been shoved into remote learning. Last March, middle March, it was historic. And at TC&J, we do something called flex curriculum, and we've designed our classrooms so that we're Zoom and in real time. And I think that will be the norm. Guys, things are really different because of this pandemic, and in some ways they're better. I think conferences are going to be forever changed, right, Robin? And game consoles, I think throughout this period have been very healthy, particularly Nintendo. I've been listening. I get a lot of information from my students like Zane and Alexis. I don't know if any other students are on. A good video game that's that, you know, you spend a lot, but you get a lot. Apple, Google, and Amazon still remain the principal source for children's interactive media, but sadly, they still view children as a commodity rather than as something that's a little bit more than a commodity. Case study, I just reviewed Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and it amazes me why Nintendo would allow one of their best properties to become so contaminated with in-app purchases and manipulation when they don't do that on their own platform. So it makes me think that Apple just doesn't get it, and they just allow this to happen. So Shuli's work with ethics is more important than ever, and we have to keep fighting for that. Sadly, there's very few new titles or innovation, but there's still so many great apps. When I set up Lyndon's Ideal iPad, a lot of your work was on it, and a lot of great stuff to choose from. In terms of hardware, I'm really excited about 5G, and I wouldn't get into it yet, but I mean, I think just the way that mobile devices are going to become, the latency is going away, and I think that's opening a lot of possibilities. And then the Oculus 2, I've been using the Oculus 1 a lot. I'm glad that Melanie Harkey's here from Shell Games, and Jim Margraf, you might just, your thoughts on hardware is always fascinating. And also Colombo, I know you're working with some really awesome stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at this point. We'd all get some coffee, or we'd get up and move around a little bit. But let's jump over to some trends.
Two quick housekeeping things. The first is there was a question of whether the course you were saying you're going to teach is open to the public.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody who wants to pay 250 euros or dollars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then can you make Scott a co-host again, just so he can help as well?
No.
Just a co-host, not host.
All right. Yes, of course. Let me find you.
You guys are living on the edge.
Okay, just know I handed it off to someone.
I know you did a good job, Scott, and thank you. And I just made Darren a co-host too. You guys should all be afraid. All right, so you guys should be both co-hosts now. Thanks, Krista. Anything else? Now I'm getting a chance to look at all your faces, and I'm getting nervous again because it's so exciting to see you all. This is just so wonderful. Thank you all for coming. It's so cool. I mean, that's the magic of this, really, and you all know that. Just the relationships that have developed over the years, and and how much we've gone through. Let's get to Chris Byrne. Are you there, Chris?
I am here. It's so good
All
to
right.
see everybody. And I see in my title slide, it looks like we're talking about trends in the 11th century, but we're really not. We're talking. That's a big. But there are actually three trends that are impacting toys in 2020 and 2021 that we should be really paying attention to. The first of these is diversity, and I don't know how to advance the slides.
Oh, I have to do it. So.
Okay, so the first is diversity. It's really something that we're going to see all the time throughout the culture is changing, and we've got, Mattel, and we've got Crayola, and companies like Fresh Dolls who are really leading the path in that. It's got to be open to race, gender, ability. And it can't just be in products. It's got to be systemic in your companies as well. And that people are really looking for it. If there's one word that we're hearing again and again as we talk to toy companies and consumers, it's authenticity. And I think that Mattel's done a great job with doing that. There's a lot out there that is really about people wanting to feel good about things. I think 2019 was the first year, according to the US Census Bureau, that 52% of preschoolers in the US were non-white. So that's a significant change, and that's going to be changing. And I'm encouraged to see that specifically in the toy industry, there's a lot more addressing of that. I'm not sure about the app business. The second one, go ahead and click it again ahead, is learning as play and play as learning. In all the talk we're doing about apps and Zoom and stuff, there's a real need for off-screen stuff. And I know Robin's talked about this for years, STEM without screens. And when we're talking about play, we're talking a lot about skill and experience based on interest versus curricular. There's a great combination also in the technology area of combination of physical and digital play. There's Dr. Abacus Brands has a thing. It's a Dr. Marvel system. It uses the phone in one of the better sort of quasi VR, AR things, because it doesn't shut the child off. The child has to do physical stuff, then put on the AR to augment it. And then when they're done with it, put on the VR to have an experience that they're having that can be shared if you're co-playing. And I think that's really important. One of the
Chris,
things that
what was the name of that? What was the name of that again?
Dr. Marvel's set. It's from Abacus Brands. If you look up Abacus Brands, they're a small company. They just launched last year. They've got, one of the things I love that they've done is a magic set. So that sort of is a new way to sort of share achievements and connections. That's going to be really important. And then the third trend, because I'm trying to do this really fast. Go ahead and click ahead, Warren. Is social emotional learning. This is probably going to be one of the most important things we're going to see as over the next year, particularly from preschoolers who've been robbed of the socialization among their peers, which is really one of the functions of kindergarten. It's largely curtailed right now, but we're seeing a change in family dynamics. And I think that that's really important. I actually am very encouraged by it. Some of the parents I'm talking to, they're actually letting their 7-year-olds get their own breakfast. What a concept. And so there's a change in family dynamics, but families are closer in solving things together. There's a lot of one of the things that encourages me, especially talking to people around Halloween, the focus was on what we can do, not what we can't. So I think that's great. But the socialization, the lack of human touch, the lack of face-to-face expression is really going to be important. So there's a need for that. And we're seeing a lot of stuff with empathy. I don't know if you saw, Mattel just released a study a couple of weeks ago about the neuroscience of doll play. And it was actually pretty interesting. They wired kids up, and doll play actually activated the centers of the brain that help with empathy and understanding and things like that. So, you know, children are going to be a year behind in this. And the final thing is we have to be prepared for what I'm calling, and others are calling, generational trauma, which is how are the kids of COVID going to be affected moving forward, in the same way that the kids of the Depression had an impact on their lives and the lives of their kids. I think we're going to see that with the kids who are going through COVID right now. And what is this going to mean in all aspects of their life, from consumption to entertainment to other kinds of things? I mean, we've seen streaming now. What does it mean for movie theaters? What industries are going to go away that we haven't seen? And how is this going to affect their consumption and their interaction? So those are the three big trends that I'm seeing as we go into 2021.
You know, it's seeing all you guys, your faces, just makes me think that we're going to be okay, and that we all are going to take care. We're going to work together and take care of the children who are being so affected by the events right now in weird ways, and we'll figure it out, because I know we can do that. But that your words were very reassuring.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Michael Colombo.
So I work at Transfer VR as the Director of Instructional Design. We provide pre-apprenticeship training in VR on technical topics. So things like, you know, working in a warehouse or being a carpenter and things like that. It's mostly targeted to high school students or recent high school grads who aren't on the college track. but they want to get a good job. We get young people jobs. That's essentially what we do. And what's great about it is that you can set, like, say you want to learn how to use a circular saw, which is a really dangerous tool. Well, you can have them do a virtual experience of that without a fear or danger of injuring themselves. And you can have, say, a class of 30 people do this without individualized instruction by 30 instructors, right? And then that would transfer over into like an apprenticeship or job training. So I spoke last year at Duster Magic, and we were a very small startup at that point. We had just done a seed round. There was a design team of 1, it was me, and we had done 2 modules. And since then, we've just grown quite a bit. So I now lead a team of 8 instructional designers, and we have modules on 10 different subject matters, from everything from automotive to paint robot troubleshooting, just all different sorts of things. And our customers include workforce development agencies, companies, high schools, technical colleges, and community colleges. So here is just a sampling of some of the simulations that we've done. We've done, at this point, almost 100 simulations, with a lot to come. So with pneumatic drills, you can actually like grab the air hose and like use the joystick to retract it and put it into the drill. We have an entire module on blueprint reading, an entire module on automotive, so how to change your brakes, how to do an oil change, all that stuff. We have a construction safety module, like for that with pallet jacks, you actually learn how to use a pallet jack and move it around your playable space, which was actually a pretty big design challenge, because it's only about like 6 feet by 6 feet, but we were able to do it. How to use a bench and pedestal grinder. If you push it in, it kicks back, things like that. And then paint robot troubleshooting was actually the first module that I worked for, and I got to go to basically the training camp for this robot company and get blasted with the fire hose for 3 days, learning all about how paint robots work. And now that's in deployment with Mazda Toyota in Alabama.
Wow.
Next slide. So here's some of the challenges, some of the interesting things that we've been doing. I've had to train up seasoned instructional designers who have never done VR before, because except in a few really rare cases, there does not exist an instructional designer for VR. So you have to get folks who you can assess that they'd be able to think in 3-dimensional space, and they'd also be able to think like a game designer, so that we can storyboard our designs and be able to give them to developers so that they can understand it and actually develop it. We're literally writing the book on how to do this right now.
Wow.
And we're amassing, an internal library of documentation on techniques to do this, like both from a practical level and from an educational level. Like if it's all hands-on, how do you assess it? There's no multiple choice questions. It's not easy. It's not simple. It's not clean, right? So we have an algorithmic mastery scoring system and AI-based scaffolding, so that if you say you're cutting with your circular saw and you make a crooked line, then your virtual coach is going to be like, you know what? Why don't we practice how to use that circular saw again? And then you go back and then you return and you try it again until you achieve mastery at it. So a funny thing happened was that we were doing really well as a company, even for a small startup. And when COVID happened, we sort of had like a short dip where like all of a sudden, like, wow, like we can't do these things on site now. Like, what are we going to do? And then there ended up becoming this like shift where all of a sudden, all of these different institutions were looking for unique remote learning possibilities for really specific use cases. Like for one example is that for that automotive module, like we did that in partnership with a college who has a technical program for automotive, but the school was completely remote, and the only hands-on experience that they could have their students get was through VR. So they're able to still, even though they're not with a car, they can still get experience working on those cars. And, you know, it's just kind of funny because this was kind of touched on a little earlier by Warren, but, you know, we're in this new normal right now, and it is forcing, I mean, thousands of teachers and other professionals to become experts at this, right? To become experts at leading a Zoom class, or, you know, facilitating VR training and things like that. And even when COVID is over, when we get a vaccine, that's not going to end. Those skills that people had are not going to suddenly disappear, right? So the shift, the paradigm shift is going to persist, because people are going to internalize these skills that they've learned and keep using them. So we're hoping that, you know, this type of VR training is going to be like part and parcel to that. And that's all I got. That's what I do.
Wow. Well, you know, I've been watching VR. I know the Oculus 2 is bringing the price down, and Facebook is really supporting it. And you can build stuff in Unity and stuff, so that it's really starting to become a reality. Anyone from Shell Games want to comment on the work you're doing with VR? Is Melanie around?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, sorry, I didn't get any slides yesterday. I was driving to North Carolina to pick up 2 kittens, which you might have seen crawling over me. But we have been working a lot in VR, Shell Games. Certainly getting everything onto the Quest is really important, because the Quest and now the Quest 2 are just so much more accessible. They are easier to set up. They're easier to use. You know, there's no more wires. So we really see that as a forward future path. We've been.
I know
Oh,
Jesse,
sorry, what?
Jesse said he might drop in. So if anyone spots him, let's hand him the microphone so he can give us an update. But keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, so we have released certainly updates to I Expect You to Die, our escape room game, and then Until You Fall, which is a VR sword fighting roguelike game. We are also working on some stuff that I can't really talk about, but one of them is, I can at least give you the context. We're doing depression therapy in VR, and dementia physical therapy in VR as well. So I think the health aspects, the health benefits of using VR is one of the things we're really looking to explore into the future.
Definitely a powerful pipeline. And, you know, I think it's great. You guys were early exploiting it. And I think from Michael Colombo's presentation, we're starting to see really it is a better mousetrap for helping you learn things like how to use a circular saw or whatever, you know. But I'm particularly interested in the work and helping people decenter from their own ethnicity or their own gender or their, you know, and I think you guys you've explored that as well, correct?
We've done a little bit. I will say at the Entertainment Technology Center.
Oops, you're muted, Melanie.
No, sorry, it's probably a kitten crawling on my thing.
Yeah.
At the Entertainment Technology Center where Jesse teaches, there's definitely been some interesting experiences there. I know there's been ones for like experiencing how other people see visually, which I found really fascinating. You know, and of course, getting yourself into other people's, you know, sort of experiences in different countries is also
Melanie,
one of the compelling experiences.
I'm a little concerned because I just saw Darren's dog disappear, and I'm worried that he might jump into your screen. Darren, are you controlling your dog?
Excuse me.
Warren.
Yes, Krista.
We had a couple of questions, follow-up questions for Mike. The first question was, are there programs in agriculture from Tonda?
Not currently in agriculture, but I'd say like we're probably right now designing around that. Like we have a diesel module we're working on, and we're actually doing culinary soon. But agriculture is probably a really deep mine dig through. So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, and then Abby Adams said she'd really like to hear about accessibility for the VR setups.
We do have an accessibility policy. I'd have to have a look at it for you. I think that, you know, you need a certain amount of mobility to use a headset and controllers and that sort of thing. But I would have to check and get back to you about that.
Sorry, let me clarify. I was thinking more about like the economic accessibility, like I imagine these programs are generally populated by lower income people, at least in my experience. And so I'm just wondering how you get these devices. Is it through the school? Is it donations, et cetera?
I
Thanks.
see. So yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah, definitely a different question. Yeah. So we work through workforce development agencies. We get grant money to do this through community colleges, and we also have a partnership with a program called Jumpstart Alabama that provides these programs to schools throughout the state. So there's sort of like, that's like a component of what we do, but you know, sometimes we also work like directly with businesses in their job training programs.
I think Melanie also reminded me that if you're using one of these with a kid, you can wedge a Beanie Baby in there and just get the right fit that you need. So, but they're not, right, Mel? Did you?
I think it was a flip flop.
Yes, it was a shoe. That's what we've learned. Something that they always have with them, right? So you take a kid's shoe and you put.
Got to make it work.
Remember that the first ones for kids, the VR, they didn't have a strap because that was their way of saying that kids wouldn't stay there for a long time. If we don't have a strap, they'd have to hold it. Remember, Robin, we did that in the VR thing a few years ago at with Tonda as well. So I guess now nobody's even talking about that anymore.
Mike, would you be willing to explore how to use this technology, or no, explore how the use of this technology will impact students, young adults with disabilities who want to transition in the workforce after they graduate high school?
Sure. I mean, I think that it's a great jumping off point into doing, like, say, the actual work with sort of a more, you know, limited requirement to try the work. And in addition to that, you can do things like, as we build up our library of different simulations, we can say, like, why don't you try out an auto body one? Why don't you try out a culinary one and see if you think that this is going to work for you in the real world. So I think that there could be some value there.
Like, my question was kind of like you mentioned, designing for a person to operate like a circle saw, for example. Like, did you personally have to kind of experience working with the circle saw in order to be able to make the experience more believable for the VR user?
Right. Okay. Interesting question. Well, I had a former life as a carpenter, so I actually have used a circular saw. But I'll take a different example. I would say whenever possible, it is definitely advantageous for the designer to try out the real thing first. And actually, pre-COVID, that's exactly what we would do. We would do a task analysis on site with the company that we had partnered with. Like I said, you know, I learned all about the paint spraying robots, right? So I was actually able to manipulate them and try them and things like that. Now, since we can't do on-site task analyses, we hire a subject matter expert who will, like, create a report, basically a task analysis that details all of those things. And a lot of times there's so many video resources as well, or we can get a video resource from the subject matter expert, that we don't always need to actually try out the thing that we're designing for. I mean, and like I said, ideally you would, but you know, it's not always possible.
Yeah. So, like, if you were doing a program on heart surgery, or a tattoo artist, you might not have to actually do it, right?
Maybe not. I don't know.
Thanks for your question, Zane.
Thank you.
You guys might recall 1 year ago, Emmet O'Neill gave sort of a depressing overview of creating apps for some of the biggest brands in the world. And I was hoping he might give us a quick overview of this. I see you got some slides in here. Let's go to Ireland.
Thanks, Warren. So firstly, I guess I just want to acknowledge that despite the technical complexities and what have you, for me, there's two distinct advantages to remote Duster Magic. So first off, I think it's the first time ever I haven't just hopped off a plane and come directly to a Duster Magic, so I'm not jet lagged. That's a real plus. And also the beer in my house is significantly better than the beer in the Lambertville Inn. So I have to say, you know, there's pluses and minuses to remote conferencing.
So for the record, you are having a beer while you're talking about the app market.
It would be a first if I didn't have a beer in my hand at a Duster Magic presentation. So I felt I kind of had to keep the tradition going. And please do bear in mind there are time zone differences at play here for anybody on the West Coast.
TCNJ students, please make note of that. So. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Great. So, yeah, as you pointed out, Warren, pretty much exactly a year ago, I gave a presentation where I spoke through, you know, the development process, you know, which was really fun. All the great work we did with user testing, and basically kind of talk through the entire production process behind what I genuinely believed was you know, one of the best, if not the best apps if not the best app that we'd made. And you know, it was an enthusiastic and good presentation and all that, until I got to the point of then it came out. And the problem was it came out, and you just want to advance it on a slide. These are the numbers that I shared at the time. And basically it was effectively our first month. And in our first month, we did around 100,000 downloads. So, you know, we'd put in all this work. We felt we'd made something really, really incredible, but, you know, but it just didn't find an audience. And at that point in time, I thought, well, hang on, you know, we've got this incredible app. We've got, you know, a great partner in Lego Duplo, but somehow it just didn't hit. And genuinely, I think at that Duster Magic, I'm very grateful to everybody for consoling me and trying to keep me buoyed up, because I honestly, I hit a point. I just thought, is it time to throw in the towel? You know, is there any future in kids apps for me? And, you know, everybody knows I've been making kids apps for about 10 years. So it was a pretty big consideration. Warren, if you want to advance the slide on a second. So basically that was the data I had at the time. This is the data up until quite recently. And just one more click there, Warren. So you can see I was working with just 1 month of data, but as it extended, basically as we got into the holiday period, and the holiday period is not normally normally it's a very crowded time in the app space, and not one that we typically have seen things really take off in. But as we started to hit the holiday period, we did an update on the app, and that's when it really started taking off. And you can see that basically we had that peak. We then had another peak in February when we launched some new content, and then of course we had somewhat of an uplift for COVID along the way too. And you know, it's now very consistent in terms of the numbers it delivers. So I guess the moral of the story is, you know, don't judge your app by its first month's worth of data, because, you know, this has gone on to be our you know, one of our best downloaded apps. And if you just want to hit forward again, so we basically, well, we did 100,000 downloads in the first month. We've actually done 12.5 million downloads to date, and you know, it was, I think, on other titles it's taken us you know, maybe 2 years and as long as 5 years to cross the 10 million download threshold. But this managed to cross 10 million downloads well before the year anniversary. So it fundamentally, you know, as I said, we just didn't have enough data at the time. And if you want to just advance the slide again, Warren. And along the way, we've been really, really lucky to pick up several awards, but more critically, in terms of usage, we've about 2 million plus monthly active users. And depending on the platform, and this is kind of an interesting one, the average user sessions are like, they're way higher than we see across a lot of our apps, but they're typically 10 minutes on iOS and Google, but bizarrely about 14 minutes on Amazon. So again, there's been incredible engagement from kids, really just a lot of enthusiasm there. And we see a lot of engagement with this app, a lot of usage. In terms of, so basically, while fundamentally it was you know, a happy development story, but a commercially sad story about a year ago. This time around, it's a very different story. We've just found it to be such a positive experience for us, and fundamentally, you know, my faith in making kids apps is well and truly restored, and I will continue to make them. In terms of COVID along the way, and in terms of 2020 specifically, along the way, we made a lot of adjustments. We developed specific sections about hand washing. And specific sections about being in your home, and basically just really tried to make it be the best experience it possibly could be for kids stuck at home with the parents working. So it's we've adapted a lot. We've made sure as well that all kinds of kids see themselves represented in this. So whether that's from a race perspective, or whether that's from a disability perspective, or whatever it might be, we're trying to make sure that all children see themselves represented within this app. So these are kind of the little things that we've done during 2022 to adapt along the way. We have a long roadmap of content in front of us, and yeah, we're very excited about the future of it. So a much more optimistic scenario than I was painting last year. So I'm glad to have had the chance to rectify the situation.
That's great news, Emmet. While the screen is up, I see that there's the Cappy Awards, and I know Robin and Tonda are on. Robin, do you want to just say hello? And Carrie, is that Carrie?
Yes.
Yeah. I see you guys in a little tiny thing. Yeah.
Eating ice cream. Right. Yes, the Cappy Awards. So I put this on the Jamboard, but basically, and thankfully, CES bought Living in Digital Times last December. So by the time we went to CES, it was already known that we would sell to them, and it was a good thing because it all happened before the pandemic. If you take it back to January, and so they had every intention of incorporating every one of the products that we built, including Kids at Play, into their agendas. But then COVID broke, and they had to make some serious adjustments by cutting back on programming, since it all has to be virtual. So for this year, they eliminated all kids, family programming from the conferences. And that's and the Young Innovator Awards, which we love so much also, but they might bring them back in 2022.
Okay,
and
so
we lost a little continuity there. Warren, how many years did we do Cappy Awards?
At least 10 years, maybe. We always didn't know, but maybe 12 years.
Right.
I don't know, Tonda, are you on? But yeah, it's you know, the thing about awards, and you know, Duster Magic actually has its very roots in the Bologna Ragazzi Award. It's the work that the Bologna Book Fair, you know, funded it and got people talking, and that's what the Cappies have done, is just getting a group of people together, sharing ideas, and everybody wins when different people come together and just share that dialogue. So Robin, thank you for being the catalyst. And
12 years.
12.
No, Warren,
Nice,
you were
nice.
Warren.
Hey, Warren, before you
Yeah.
move on, we did have a few juicy questions for Emmet.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I could. The first one's from Mark. Emmet, do you think the greater usage time is related to it being a building app?
I don't think so, because there's like while we have some building in there, it's really more of a sort of a sandboxy kind of free play kind of app. So I think honestly the long play sessions are primarily down to the fact that we really engaged with children during the development process, and we watched and we learned and we just checked out what they were engaging with, and we've managed to even throughout throughout the COVID crisis, we have managed to continue with quite substantial kid testing, not as substantial as before, but we've certainly we have continued with that. So I think just yeah, child observation is what helped there. Obviously, I don't think that, because I know that the most engaged with components are not necessarily the activities that are directly related to construction.
Nice, nice. You remind me of a seminal talk at Duster Magic many years ago from Barbara Chamberlain, exactly on this, on kid co-design and focus group testing, and she really is that. Shuli wants to know that in addition to analytics, do you do other user research to gauge kids' play?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we like every single component of this at a really sort of micro level gets played with and tested beforehand. So the analytics are great because they allow you, whatever thesis you develop while something is still being worked on and still being kid tested within your environment. Sorry, should have turned on Do Not Disturb. Whatever you've developed as your thesis in that environment, you then basically get to scale up and see through analytics in aggregate, are kids generally reacting the same way.
And then someone was curious of how your retention has been, and what do you consider success?
Yeah, so
metrics.
Great. So, I mean, I basically, I don't have retention data off the top of my head, but I know it is higher than higher than most of the apps in our portfolio, quite substantially higher. So I don't have the exact numbers to hand, but the day 1, day 7, day 30 plus, they're all, well above industry benchmarks.
There's kind of a general question for this audience, Warren, which is, Emmet, do you believe that or do you feel that the Apple Store has some fundamental problems? I don't know if we want to table that, because that may be a larger conversation, Warren, but it's certainly a juicy question.
Yes.
Sure. So I guess, I mean, like the thing is, I don't know that it's the store that fundamentally has the problems. I mean, the store influences the content that's being submitted to it, but it doesn't make it. So Warren, in your example earlier, you talked about Nintendo and how when Nintendo put content out in the Apple ecosystem, suddenly it's garbage by comparison, or certainly very commercially exploitive. Now, the reality of it is, Apple has nothing to do with that. Those are choices Nintendo makes. Now, unfortunately, the App Store has in many contexts wound up as a bit of a race to the bottom. So, when it launched, there was decent price points, and you could just, Touch Press had several $20 plus apps, and people would buy those. But then people came out with knockoffs, and price went down and down and down, and it wound up as a race to the bottom. Nintendo are just responding to tactics that other developers are using. Now, what could Apple, in theory, strong arm these people and make sure that nobody is using any manipulative practices? Technically, they could, but I mean, they're already accused of abusing a monopoly status. So if they started inflicting that level of regulation, would they get away with it? So I think it's dangerous to just blame platforms. I think everybody has a responsibility for it. And I would say that certainly, if you take a look at some of the work that Google has done over the course of the last year, they really, really are actively engaging in trying to elevate apps as a medium and to make their store as safe as they can for kids. And it's not just lip service. I mean, they genuinely believe in trying to make it better. But if you're policing you know, hundreds of thousands of submissions, it's not necessarily just the stores that are sort of setting these bars. I don't know. I mean, I think others might disagree, but I certainly know that the stores across the board, people are going in with the best intentions. They're not going in going, how can we make more money out of kids? Kids is almost a loss leader category. So they're not going in trying to just exploit children. That's being done by app developers and as I said, by that race to the bottom behavior.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Steam as an example of an app store that I think is doing a lot of things right, and I'm hearing about that from some of my students, and that's where there's some really good innovation going. So, you know, I'd like to see Apple take more of a leadership in using their resources to create a walled environment where ethical apps that are identified as ethical, that are, you know, don't have to have all the strategies for monetization. Nintendo is just doing what it needs to do to survive since Pokemon Go days. You can't survive putting in an iOS environment if you don't play that game, and at least in terms of a business model. So, but you've been able to stay, you do use in-app purchases, and I think it's more the way it's done, but thanks for bringing up that question for sure. And it's still a simmering issue.
Look, it's an important topic, and it'll continue to be so. I think that, you know, I absolutely take on board the stores could be doing more, but I just wanted to make the point, they are trying quite hard to improve upon these, and it's not about the stores, it's as much as the people submitting content to them, and that's what makes it sort of a fairly unlevel playing field if you're trying to do things ethically.
Can everyone just take a deep breath and look outside at the river and the leaves changing? Beautiful this time of year. It's great to be here.
While they do that, I just want to jump in and say, Emmet, thank you. That was really a very good insight for me too. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Roger.
Anyone else want to say anything?
Actually, I have a question. Emmet, really great job on download numbers. I was wondering what are some ways that you've tried to grow the download number? Is it ads? Is it like,
well,
you know, there's so many factors.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of different things. I mean, we're obviously we're obviously marketing digitally, but you know, it would be it'd be remiss not to point out the phenomenal support that Lego have provided, that the Lego group have provided in this context. They've included both the app and the Cappy logo next to the app in all of their catalogs. So I know people aren't walking into toy stores as much as they used to, but anybody who goes into a toy store, they basically can pick up a Lego catalog, and there's a big advert for it in there. If you have a box of Duplo and you open it up, there's within the instructions, within the instruction booklet, there's a little mention of the app. So Thomas from Lego, who is on the call, was phenomenally supportive in helping to raise awareness of the apps with Lego fans. And of course, you know, look, there's a lot of Lego fans out there. I count myself amongst them. It's you're preaching to a very passionate fan base in that context.
Yeah.
I also see Mary Beth Janes is here. I don't know if you're you want to pipe up and say anything. From Mary Beth was one of the early people from Apple that came to Duster Magic. I think this first or second one, but if you want to jump in. I know Chris Kroll, I think, is on. Chris works for Apple now, but I know you guys don't work anything with the App Store, but anybody who wants to jump in, it's so wonderful to see you're on this meeting. There's some, boy, it's so fun to see everybody. What I always do in our class is I give everyone a break. And so can I suggest we take 10 minutes, and this is what I do. I go, Alexa, set a timer for 10 minutes.
10 minutes, starting now.
That keeps me on track. So is that a good idea? Can everyone take a stretch, walk around a little bit, and we'll come right back? And who's got the blue slides? Who's that?
That's me, David.
Oh, David. Oh, awesome. Okay, we'll come back with David Kleeman. Does that sound like a plan?
Warren, you also set my Alexa to
You set everybody's Alexa, Warren. We're all set.
Any product developers out there, say it now, and you can get everybody's Alexa to buy it for you.
Buy me a pony.
Self-destruct sequence.
Before you break, think about this during the break. We have the backbone and all the assets and the engine to do something like the CAPI Awards in the event that CES decides not to go ahead with it. To me, and it really gives all the credit to Warren, what was so important was that it didn't matter if you had your own awards that your company gave out, if you were an academic, it was a mixed group of people whose sole reason for awarding a product was that it deserved attention. And I hope that we got people to pay attention to products they might not have wanted to. So if anybody wants to form a subcommittee, can't use the name CAPI, has to be thrown out because CES now owns the IP, but we know how to do this, and we have the website built and the engines built and the form sites built. And so just think about that. If anybody wants to take on a little pandemic project, now go take your break.
Good food for thought. Yeah, there's a lot of things that have just been totally disrupted, including the Bologna Book Fair really got hit. There, first time in 54 years that there was no Bologna meeting. And I know Neil Hoskins is on. Neil, do you want to say hello, a quick hello? I'm catching people like, oh, I just took a break. All right, let me stick with the break.
Hey, Warren, before we break, Barbara Chamberlain asked a really good question. Why don't we set up a breakout room for people who want to talk about how best to do remote testing with kids? I don't think, I'm not sure if this account, I can do that. But if you have the latest Zoom, you should be able to join a room if you create one.
Yeah, okay. I'm just not going to stop until I break this thing. Is that what we're going to do?
Oh, I thought, no, it could be, if you didn't want a break, you could go do that. If you need a break, take the break. How about that?
Yeah, I can assign you all the rooms. No, I don't want to.
You don't have to assign. If people have the latest Zoom, they could just select it themselves, or we could help them out if they can't get in.
Yeah.
Or we can just talk in this room.
Yeah, you guys just keep talking. I'm going to go and check on Ellen, and I'll be right back.
I haven't had a chance to read through the recommendations that David had, but this is something we've been doing in our shop, trying to do online testing. And some things have worked well and some things haven't. What has anyone else found has worked well while they're doing user testing online?
We've been using usertesting.com for VR testing, which has actually worked out extremely well. They didn't have VR testing at the beginning, but they were doing user testing. So we're like, hey, is this a thing you could set up? And now there's a decent amount of testers. They pay the testers test. So this is, obviously for an older audience than young children, since VR is not advertised for young children. But it does allow us to get like teenagers in.
What feedback do they give to you, and how quickly do they deliver it, Mom?
So it is very custom to whatever we want. So we set up the questions in it. It has a plugin that goes into their browser to help record the VR setup and record what they're doing in VR. And then it can also record their camera as well. And we ask them questions. Sometimes we do a moderated test where like we are there actively watching them, and it's sort of like a Zoom chat. So you can talk to them and ask questions at the same time. And we also do unmoderated where it just has questions in the plugin. There's like questions that appear on their screen. It does not overlay into the VR experience. So usually it's like questions after the VR experience has ended.
Melanie, it's worth pointing out that actually lots of gamers have kids. So I believe if it wasn't this platform, I don't know if Thomas is still on the call, but he did some early stage user testing at one point with a similar platform, and we just found, you know, we were using gamer kids, so you had to take out like a little bit of it skewed the data a bit in that gamer kids probably have been introduced to full-on console games, and something that's you know, more free play and less goal oriented like Lego Duplo World didn't necessarily work for that audience. But it's still actually a very useful platform to do kind of wide scale testing in an inexpensive way. Definitely worth, even in a very young kids context, it's worth doing because, as I said, lots of gamers have kids.
You know,
But Emmet,
it's actually
which platform
funny.
did you use? Was it just Zoom, or did you use like a specific like usertesting.com?
Yeah, no, I don't know if it was what the specific platform was. It may have been usertesting.com. I'm not sure. I didn't personally arrange it, but it was a similar online platform. So it was financially incentivized.
Right.
But yeah, although it's full of gamers, and what have you, you actually can use it for kid testing because they just basically do sessions with their kids.
Right. So actually, because the thing is, and Barbara, tell me if you've had different experience with these platforms. Usually, you're not supposed to have children on the platforms, so it's for adults only. So I guess if the gamers are in the platform and they bring their kid, that's whatever, you know, you could do that always. But in usertesting.com, for example, they have this huge database. You can search for SES and age and ethnicity and whatnot, but it's only over 18. So that's a big challenge when you want to. So we've been having this challenge as well, and we kind of did it word of mouth and figuring out which kids to get to, but haven't found a good way, like a good platform to use.
Thomas, sorry, I just want to check if Thomas from Lego, who organized our user testing, is on. He might be on a break, but Thomas, you there? Must be on a break. But it just in terms of, I know that Lego wouldn't have engaged in the platform if there was any issues. They are, you know, I've never come across
they
a
have
more
Dieter, and he's like,
more compliant company. So
right.
so it must be a different platform, and maybe we can ask him when he comes back.
Perfect, thanks.
Pierre, are you there? Over in France? I think I saw it. Oh, Pierre.
Okay, so my mic was off. Yeah, hi.
How are you doing, my friend?
Pierre.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm sorry I was late because I was cutting trees in my garden and there was some issues with the trees. Perfect.
We all have issues, don't we?
Yeah, it's really technical for me, you know.
How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm fine, very fine. Yeah, that was a great year in terms of sales. It's really great for the apps because of the COVID. And I'm not doing new apps currently. You know, I'm just because of the market now. It's really difficult for small. You know, I'm a one guy company, one half, because my cousin is doing Android stuff. But now I don't believe I can do a new app, you know, and be successful.
Kristen, are you there as well? From App Media. I'm wondering if you guys are both having good years, because in a sense, you've been preparing for the pandemic for about 8 years, making apps that are, you know, really great for homeschooling. And that's my theory. Is that true?
Yes, for me.
Good.
I think for everybody, Warren. I think for everybody. I think everybody's revenues this year will be a several times multiplier on what they were last year.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
But how do people find all these good apps? Because if there are no awards and stuff, I mean, I think if we're going back to discussion about the app stores, discoverability and visibility are still a challenge, even though it's not on purpose, whatnot. How do they find these really quality, great apps?
I can answer for me. Yeah, I know that a lot of schools are recommend. You know, when schools closed, actually they recommend. There was some recommendation for apps.
Alexa, stop.
And some of my apps were recommended. So it was really incredible, especially on Google Play. It was 3 times the sales of before.
Alexa, stop. Guys, I just turned off your Alexas everywhere. Hey, Google, play some good music. Let's see what that does. No. Hey, Google, stop. Sorry. I was trying to prank you guys, but oh my God. All right, so David Kleeman.
Here I am. I am in my Duster Magic hoodie. I am, my background is the mighty Delaware, taken on a Duster Magic morning. As of this time last year, I'd flown about 180,000 air miles, and as of this year, it's about 20,000, all packed into the first month and a half of the year. But I've managed to have a productive year in any case. I got married, and I joined Warren in grandfatherhood. So it's been a pretty good year for, obviously all the things that may have made it a terrible year, but managed to turn some things to the good. I just put together 3 slides with 3 of my favorite quotes that we've had this year in the research that Dubbett's been doing, that I think are each kind of indicative of what's going on. This first one that's on the screen now, I finished YouTube, when does the next season start, is indicative of the fact that consumption of everything is way up. Kids are, we just got our October trends data, and if you look at, usually we have a wave that goes sort of high in the morning, kids turning on the TV before school, dips down while they're at school, jumps up in the afternoon, and stays up until it starts to trend down at bedtime. This year, it is a flat line. It's they wake up in the morning, they sleep a little later, but they wake up and everything goes on, and media is just used straight across the day. Some of the things we've seen change, PCs and laptops had been declining in use for 3 straight years, and now they're up as kids are schooling from home and doing homework and all those things. Tablets are hanging on longer. Kids are used to think of them as baby stuff after about age 6. Now they're actually continuing to use them. And obviously the smartphone is huge right now, as older kids try to stay in touch with each other. The TV, the families are gathering around the TV in the evening and doing things together. So that's the first slide. Go to the second, Warren. This was one of my favorites. A preschooler whose father saw her watching TV and said, "What are you learning?" And she said, "I'm not learning anything. It's a video. It just goes by itself." I think kids are onto us. They've realized that they're learning that they need to interact. They need to bring their own activity to the table in order to advance their learning. And it's really what we're seeing, that kids are engaging in their own self-guided and self-motivated and self-starting learning. They are digging into, whether it's digging into Google, whether it's watching YouTube in huge numbers, whether they're learning how to build something. They are their own teachers right now, with support from obviously schools and parents. And I think the reason I raise it is because I think when they get back to schools, there's going to have to be a shift from the sage on the stage model. Kids are going to come back after could be as much as a year of self-directed learning, and I'm not sure they're going to sit politely in rows listening to someone lecture at them. And then the last one, Warren. We did some qualitative interviews with a platform we use called the Click Room that we developed with parents both in the US and the UK. These 2 quotes came from the UK, but we were looking at how it's changed family shopping, media consumption, all those habits. And these, I think, were the interesting both cautions and opportunities there. Kids really miss going to the stores. Parents miss taking them. They feel like it's exciting to take their kids to the stores and watch them. Like there's the happenstance of discovery. They'll be walking down an aisle and they wouldn't have thought of something as being right for them, but they'll spot it and it's exciting to them. And when they look online, when they browse online, it just doesn't feel like the same excitement. how this is going to change retail and shopping and all that in the long term, I think is still very much to be determined. Families do like getting out, but they also just are not ready to go back to the stores yet. And so many of the, as they would call it in the UK, the high street stores are shutting down for good. So those are three things that we are looking at going forward. I just thought I'd throw those in quickly.
So nice to hear those mellow Kleeman tones.
Not a lot of practice talking these days.
Congratulations on getting married and you're being a grandfather.
Thank you much. I just spent a week
marriage
doing.
has mellowed you. Marriage has mellowed you, Dave.
Oh, that's it. That's it. I
And
spent
how
a
are you
week
dealing with
doing
staying in
grandpa
one
daycare.
place for so long, David? That's just.
You know, what I miss is seeing places. There are so many places in the world I love to see, and I miss seeing people. And but in terms of work, I've managed to make it work, and with new family to engage with, that's doing pretty well as well. My wife's daughter is doing college from home, and it's been incredibly hard on her. But I have to say that our dinner table conversations have been wonderful. It's very different from when I would drop in for a day or two and then disappear.
Well, congratulations, and it's great. And that you reminded me that Chip Donahue is somewhere, I think, on another box. Chip, are you there?
Yep.
If so, how are you doing? How's Utah?
Utah's good. Winter's not quite here yet, but don't expect it to stay away for a few more days. It's good.
I met Chip and David over in we somehow converged in Turkey. Remember that, guys?
Yeah.
How cool was that? And because of our mutual friend Rick Fernandez, we're all Fred Rogers senior fellows, and really we all take that to heart. That really has, I think, influenced every way we think about this space. And but it's great to see you, Chip.
Yeah, Warren, let me say something about that. I'm on a campaign to get rid of the phrase remote learning because Fred would have hated that. Remote as in at a distance, yeah, that makes sense. Remote as in detached, uninterested, not part of the child's life, he would never have accepted. So we need to do something different than remote learning, and it's become the language of schools. I can't stop the schools from talking about remote learning, but it just seems like the wrong name.
Aaron, can you make anything out of that?
Remote learning?
Yeah. The fact that he delivered that to us remotely was interesting.
Yeah.
There's something out of there.
He's saying don't call it remotely. He just gave an active learning experience.
Good point.
He's saying don't call it remote.
Got it.
And the question is, are we really remote when we're doing this? Is this remote? Has the screen just become a mediator of a relationship?
Right.
We're not really remote. We're all together right now.
Well, David,
I agree.
I spoke to David the other day for Mary Cousin's interview, and David, you had some feelings about post-COVID, whenever that happens, and that we'd say goodbye to screens for a while collectively. Do you want to address that?
Yeah, I think that kids, I mean, everything we are seeing in our research is that kids are desperate to see their friends and have time with their friends. Some are going back. I know my colleagues in the UK have been sending their kids to school, but it sounds like everything's going back on lockdown now. And what they were most eager for was time face-to-face with their friends. And it's led us to kind of speculate that when when there's a vaccine, whatever the trigger is for when we can really be free to go out and play again. The kids may well put down screens for a while, or at least those that are more, that lead them into the screen as opposed to being used as a window to a broader world. So AR could do fine, but they're probably going to turn off the TV, put down the tablet, put down the laptop, and go out and want to be with their friends, play sport, get back to teams, get back to playgrounds, and that. And we tell people don't take it. We tell people don't take it personally. That
right. No, but maybe instead of saying the screen time will lower because they'll put down screens, maybe it'll be finally a point where we stop talking about screens and kids will only play with things that are meaningful, regardless if they're on a screen or not. rather than being on a screen or off a screen, because that won't matter, because now kids have all the screen time they want, and all they want is to go back to school, which, by the way, record your kids saying that. Have proof that that happened. Yeah.
That's
worth.
In our household, I see that technology is really truly an extension of play now, whereas it used to be a choice whether you were outside or doing something, or you were on the screen, or you had to have outside time before you could have screen time. Now our kids are back in school physically, but they can't touch their friends and they have to wear masks, and it's very different than school as a norm. So they utilize technology for their playtime specifically, much to what you were saying, David, about learning. It is much more about entertainment than anything in our household, but it's the extension that they use to communicate and to gather rather than just using it for themselves. It's about community.
I wonder, could I share something here, Warren? And I wonder if it might be worth looking at another industry, more classroom-based, where there was an organization called SIIA that used to be a proponent, supporter of ed tech, and they recently, in this last year, they have dissolved. Part of the reason why it's believed that there is no such thing as ed tech anymore. It's just learning. It's just education.
Yeah. And I think the whole theme of Duster Magic is remember in the year 2000, the title of this event was Child Development 101 for the Designers of Children's Software. That was the title. And Ellen came to me and said, that's kind of a stupid title. And Aline Stein said, I just read this great book by Bob Hughes called Dust or Magic. You should read it. And I read it and it was like, yeah, it's really about let's make magic. And so against the pandemic and against all of these changes are the constant forces of child development. And as Chip reminds us, relationships. And so, these things, if you stay tuned in and grounded in the power of active learning and, the lessons that came from B.F. Skinner and Piaget and so on, those will guide you through whatever changes are going to happen.
Warren, I've been talking about screens as lifelines because I've worked so many years trying to get early childhood educators to stop freaking out about screens and being afraid of technology. I hear what David is saying. I'm worried that teachers will come back when we all come back and put the screens away and make the kids put screens away, and we'll have lost this opportunity that we've just had to think about screens differently, completely differently. They're tools for connection. And so, if we suddenly video chat goes away and teachers who feel like they're communicating more with parents than they ever have stop using these technologies to communicate with parents because we're back in the classroom, we'll have lost it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see both of them come back. I think we're going to see a hybridized type of experience, because what's happening right now with the screen is you're only getting a certain percentage of the communication. You can't see other than a two-shot. And you can't feel other than if I imbue my speech with emotion. So I think that humanity complemented by the power that the screens, I'm hopeful that there'll be a hybridized type of situation.
Well, and I talk sometimes about toys that put a screen between the child and the toy, or the child and play, and toys that put the toy between the child and the screen. And it may be the same with people too, that the screens the mediated experiences that will survive are the ones that let kids work together and be in front of it, using it as a tool.
Yeah. If you keep an eye on Zoom. So they appointed a head of global learning, and they have a research facility they built with ASU now. And they are really looking, well, already they have kids that can walk into classrooms as avatars. They have meeting rooms. They have a Zoom marketplace where you can learn and sell skills, but they're really treating education as fertile ground for new things, for haptics, for immersive environments. And they're doing some exciting work. And if you don't follow, what is it, ASU GSV, the Global Virtual Summit, anybody go to that? You actually went as a almost like a second life experience. You wandered around, bumping into other educators and talking with them, and it's still kind of primitive, but you could.
If you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat, Robin, a link to that conference, that would be awesome.
Yep. Yep. I will do.
I was going to say that
Michael Moe's
got it right here.
Speech was
Michael, go ahead.
Incredible.
Yes.
Michael Moe's keynote speech was incredible about the future of learning.
Yes.
I mean, it was like
it was great.
28 minutes, 122 slides. It's the most insightful comment about the future of learning that I've heard all year. And it's really,
right. So
really worth 28 minutes.
SIAA just didn't keep on top of what is really happening, and they called it EdTech, but what is really happening with distance learning and remote learning and collaborations and immersive learning is really taken off in an exciting way. And
what's so cool is Michael Carter, that it's your first Duster Magic, and you wouldn't be here without Zoom. And we've been following each other for so many years. I'm so glad that you're here and you're piping in, and you guys keep building through chat and through that document, keep contributing resources. The amount of information that is going asynchronously through this is phenomenal. So we can't pass that up. Before we go to Canada, I'd like to just see how Valerie's doing. I know that you have a hurt foot. Is that correct?
Yes, it's officially broken.
Oh, ouch. And are you currently in the hospital?
No, I managed to leave. It was a 3-hour experience, which is really short for Montreal emergency. Normally it's like 7 or 8 hours. So I was very lucky.
So Valerie's the CEO of Idoki Academy. And how is your year going in terms of sales? I heard from Pierre and Kristen, who said they're having good years, and also Emmet. Have you seen an upswing in the Montessori preschool?
Yes, of course. Obviously, COVID has brought more users to our world, but very interestingly, as you know, the Montessori community was completely against screens, and with the current situation of children not actually going to schools, they've had to start looking for digital experiences, and they suddenly, they were like our worst enemies. Do not go to screens. This is not Montessori. And now they're buying subscriptions from us.
I do believe that Maria Montessori is on the Zoom call. I did send her an email. And, she might pop in. Maybe we sent it out to BF Skinner, Lev Vygotsky, and but let's go another place in Canada, to Jason.
Hey,
so nice to have you here. And you're jumping in. I was at a Toy Fair right before the Javits Center was turned into a hospital.
Yeah.
And right, Chris, was that just bizarre how we were walking around, and I went up to a toy company and I saw all these Sago mini things, and then so anyway,
that was a whole different time.
That was a whole different time.
The before times.
Tell me what you're doing and I'll advance the slides accordingly.
Okay, well, the first two are pretty quick. Just in terms of, we had two big things that we launched this year. The first was a physical product. So it is a subscription that you sign up for. It's a complement to Sago Mini World, which is our sort of core digital product, where you actually get a box of make and play activities in the mail every month. So this was something we've been working on for a long time, probably 2 years of product development and manufacturing. And I'm couldn't be more proud of it. It's going well. And we have plans for future things in this kind of format. That's all I'm going to say about the boxes. But if you haven't taken a look, they're worth a look. But there are our take of trying to do something that's physical and digital, riffing on the same themes and the same content, but you can actually enjoy each independently for its own reasons.
Got it.
The next big thing was Sega Mini School, which was a new kind of preschool learning app that we launched at the beginning of this year. You can advance to the next slide. So this was us sort of banging our heads together. We stole a chunk of the team who developed World, and then we hired a bunch of great people. Connie, actually, who's here, has been a big help on this project, and basically got a chance to look at, like, okay, if we were going to do an educational product, how would we do it differently? And we found a few sort of big things we wanted to do differently. So one was the everything, all this content is packaged up, it's all topic based. So there's no math section, reading, literacy. It's instead wrapped in like child relatable themes. So we've got like right now, garbage is the theme of the month. We had forest was the theme last month. So the idea was like, what things does a 3-year-old see and observe on their walk home from school? And then how can we anchor all this different learning in these topics? We also launched a parent app to go with it, which is completely free of charts and graphs, which is my proudest thing. So essentially what it does is it's a device to get a parent asking their kid questions. So it shows you some work that your kid is doing inside the app. It gives you a fun fact about maybe garbage or forests or bugs. But its sole intention is not for you to track with metrics what your child is doing, how they're performing, if they're in the 3rd quartile. It's basically just to get a conversation going. So that launched at the beginning of the year and is going really, really well. So we're going to launch it on Google Play very soon. And we have, we're expanding that team and adding more and more to that project.
Oops.
Going back a slide. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little out of sync here.
So my takeaway, guys, is that I'm here in New Jersey where we just developed the vaccine. So I'm going to tell them to put that vaccine on hold so you guys can have a better year. I think that's my takeaway.
It's a weird year. But I mean, it has been good in some respects. I do find that, it's already been touched on by a bunch of people here, but it feels like it's just accelerated. A lot of conversations are already going on. The whole discussion around screen shaming amongst parents, I think, is an interesting one. And I think that so many families have been launched into embracing screen time and starting to acknowledge some of the benefits, whether it's connecting to relatives or learning new things. And I think that's ultimately going to, help many of us. I think it's, I have a few other points here, but just like, I think the cultural importance of gaming is now really front and center. The conversations that are taking place, the social importance of gaming for kids, especially like upper elementary or high school level.
Yes.
The significance of games as a business is completely flipped. I think for a long time, people have underestimated how significant it is as a business, like relative, it's larger than the film industry. It's larger than the music industry. It's larger than most of these industries. But I think only now are people really starting to see this, and that brings attention and investment for good and for bad. On the downside, I do think this has really driven home the whole digital divide. If you don't have access to this technology, you are really out of the conversation. You are really out of the loop. And if you don't have supports that allow you, like if you're in a job where you're an essential worker and your kid is alone at home for extended periods of time, it's a vastly different experience than myself, who can work from home, pop in and out to help my daughter. And so, the economic divide and the digital divide is a real thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Warren, there's a question for Jason. Has the parent app had the use you wanted it to? Love the idea behind it, but I know the 2-app approach can be hard. And this is from Colleen.
It is very hard. I think the adoption is, we're seeing about maybe a third of our subscribers actually using the app, which is actually, I'm very happy about. I feel like I said it with the team when they asked the same question at the beginning, like we've seen over and over again, you build these parent tools and the parents don't use them. And for me, I set the benchmark of 10%. If 10% of people are using it, I consider it a win.
Yeah.
And we've met that kind of threshold.
That's amazing, Jason. A third is incredible.
Yeah.
Congrats. Congrats. Beautiful work, Jason.
It's taken some active effort for sure.
Well, Jason, you have a 2-year-old fan who thinks he's Woody down in Georgia, and I gotta tell you, you guys, again, you gotta remember how powerful you are. Is, you know, I wanted to be a teacher. Well, Jason is been a teacher for so many in your team, of course, so many kids. I mean, that you've got the power to really make a difference, and we have to keep fighting to bridge the digital divide and to, you know, get this power. The potential is there. I couldn't help but see that Jesse Shell just popped in, and I wanted to let you say a quick hello. And what do you guys? We already heard from Melanie Harkey, who updated us a bit. Michael Colombo talked a little bit about his work with VR, but you know, you're one of the first VR-aholics that I ever knew. And but what are you guys working on at Shell Games?
Yeah, sure. It was great. Sorry I couldn't be here earlier, but it's great to see everybody. It's wonderful seeing everybody kind of together online in a like super Hollywood Squares mode here. So as usual, doing a lot of different things at Shell Games. The VR is really being a big deal for us. We are finding that it really is feeling like it's getting traction. The Quest 2, I just got one right here. Like this, we're really feeling like this thing is going to make a big difference, you know, at a $299 price point, with the quality of titles that are on there. Obviously right now it's only a 13 plus experience, but but it feels like that's going to be the breakthrough into the mass market. We're already seeing that people who are buying this and using it are buying it and playing games a lot. They're buying and playing games. Something like the average for people who are using it is 100 minutes a day, is where they are with it. And so that's feeling like a big deal. At the moment, we had been doing a lot of online, not a lot of online stuff. We've been doing a lot of theme park stuff. And then with the pandemic hit that, and that gave us a big stomach ache. But then a lot of VR stuff kind of came in. We're doing medical VR stuff, and we're doing gaming VR stuff and educational VR as well. I think Mel probably mentioned we have our History Maker VR game is out now. That's one where you put on a headset, you get to become a historical figure and make speeches. So that's been a nice one for us. So VR is not the only thing we're doing, but it is sort of the meat of what we're doing right now. I would say it's about 3/4 of our work at the moment, and it really feels poised to grow and expand and be important in the next couple of years.
Wow. I'm glad you and I are totally lined up on the Quest 2 and the fact that some of the software I've been seeing, and I'm glad that Zane and some TCNJ students are, Alexis, you guys heard that, right? It's part of being successful in this business is to know when to watch the hardware waves. And so thanks for that, Jesse. We have some more slides. As you guys probably know, we're coming up at 2 o'clock. I'm just going to keep giving 10-minute breaks, and this content is way too much for the shell that I've created for time. So we're just going to keep going till everybody gets a chance to share what they have. As a reminder, the slide deck is shared. You can add or subtract. I see people editing it as we go here. And I'm just going to keep going through here.
Hey, Warren.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know that. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, caller.
So, there's a horrible echo. I apologize. Jim McGrath has a hard 2 o'clock stop, and I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you. Let's hear from Jim.
Hey, Warren. Thanks so much. Great to see everyone. I just a quick note. I find myself in a surprising place with a kind of a repeat of where I was probably 20 years ago, approaching the LEAP pad. At the time when I had the idea for the LEAP pad and began talking to people, there were these paper books with membrane switch panels along the side with a speaker. You may recall they're still in the marketplace. But at that time, the reaction was, gee, I have a tool that has audio feedback. Why do I need this thing you're calling a LEAP pad? And evidently we did, because we figured out how to create connection and provide a different type of interaction. I've had the good fortune now to be working with Mark Schlichting and Barbara Chase and Darren Carstens and some other people on a new concept that reminds me of this, because the initial reaction was, why do I need that? We have other tools. And I love it when that happens. It takes us back to first principles. So all I can say about it is it grew out of work that my wife is doing. She went back to school in 2017 to pursue a dissertation and a doctorate in the psychosocial issues of long duration space flight. It turns out when you put astronauts in a canister, ship them off to Mars, they encounter what are called ICE conditions, ICE, which is isolated, confined, and extreme. When you put them in this environment, they don't thrive. Humans don't thrive. Well, here we are at this point in an ICE condition we're experiencing ourselves, and we're missing this connectedness. So we had considered whether we created a companion for NASA, and I discussed this, and eventually said, what if we create an AI social agent? So an agent that, instead of being like most AI agents, which replace human beings, let's create an agent which facilitates connection and an interchange between people. And let's pop this into video chat. Let's add some AR to it, and let's create a new experience for connectedness. So that's what we're working on, and it really does go back to first principles, because we've got Zoom, which works okay, and a lot of discussion this morning says it works well in some areas, but it doesn't work in others. We're missing that physical, the semblance of some immersion, proximity, other elements. But we think there is a way to address this, to address time shifting and connection. And again, go back to the basics of what it is we need. And when two human beings are connected, or could be connected, and want to share information, want to emote, it's not served well, and people are poor communicators. So that's what we're up to. We're starting with loved ones, older loved ones and younger loved ones, and see this as something that could be quite generic for all human beings, but going back to roots in play and toys. And Mark and Barbara are working on different forms of co-play in the space. So just wanted to share this. Stand by. I can't say much more than that right now, aside from saying it's completely exciting, and we're very optimistic at the future of play. And as it evolves with new technologies, we embrace these. And I think parents are beginning to. So I think there's huge potential here.
Well, so no release date yet, right?
I can't say, but it won't be too long.
Thank you very much. That was very good. Bye.
So anyway, this is the other day I got a FaceTime call from my not yet 2-year-old grandson, and he wanted to talk to the duck. Didn't want to talk to me, and he did it all on his own. And my daughter Sarah came up behind him and said, "What are you doing?" So he actually took over the iPad and didn't want to talk to Grandpa, but wanted to talk to the duck. And so we've been doing this. So you'd be proud of me, Mark.
Warren, if we could just have a couple more minutes. I have a couple more people that do have a hard stop who would love just to be able to say hello and share a few bits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we tee up Shuli next?
I promise to be brief.
You got to go, Shuli? No.
15 minutes. It's like 9 p.m. here, and I actually have another meeting. So.
All right. Got it. Oh yeah.
So it's so amazing to see everyone, and to believe that I saw a whole lot of you in February around the toy fair in New York. That just seems like sci-fi now. Like, I don't even know when, like, New York just seems like a whole other, like, planes and
Julie, you're in Israel right now.
I am in Israel. But yeah, thanks for that. I'm in Tel Aviv in Israel, in my home office, which I haven't left for the past 6 months. I mean, I've gone outside to the supermarket, but not much more than that. I teach from here at Tel Aviv University. I work with companies who design products for kids. And most importantly, I'm part of an organization called Designing for Children's Rights. And I would love to tell you about it because we're doing this special project now, which is a global survey about how kids feel about their rights now in 2020. And
Did you have
anybody,
a slide?
Yes, I do.
What number? Do you know what number?
Go on the bottom. It's below the purple slide. See the purple slide? I can't see the numbers from here because I have it smaller on the screen.
Got it. Okay,
This
it's
is the
on.
one. Thank you. So basically, just briefly, this association is a voluntary association it's been founded 3 years ago by designers who wanted to create more ethical products for children and didn't know how. So they gathered experts from all over the world, and we have been working with UNICEF using the UN's child rights as our guide into creating a guideline for designers. So if you're interested in that, it's on the website, and I'll send anybody who's interested in all the information. But more than that, we've been having these events, and some of the people here have been part of this initiative. We have local chapters all over the world. Abby said she may be opening one in New York, just saying that out there. But we have other ones.
It'll happen.
But there's some in Europe, and there's one here in Tel Aviv. Anyway, there's a lot going on. But we really wanted to hear from kids this year. We're going to have our event remotely or online. I don't want to use remote after what Chip said. And we decided that not only do the designers want to meet and promote this, but we really want to talk to kids, which has always been a challenge for our events. How do you bring children over and you've got all the problem with that? So that, okay, we're going to take advantage of this. We've actually written kind of a short survey, and we have one for younger kids, like elementary, and then for teens and tweens with 10 questions. So it's going to be really short that touch about the principles that we've designed according to the UN Child Rights, but not directly, kind of indirectly, because most children don't even know what those principles are. And we're going to submit them. We're going to probably start this in a couple of weeks to children all over the world. We have some people translating them, and we really want to hear and see what children feel today about their rights. We're not going to say this specifically in the digital area, but we have a feeling that that's going to be a big thing that's going to come up. So if anybody wants to help distribute this to kids around them, the more diversity we get, the more kids' voices we get, different ages, SES, cultures, backgrounds, countries, send it to your family abroad, send it to anybody. We'd love to have that. So we, like everybody was talking about diversity and inclusion, we really need to hear all those voices. So I'll send this stuff to Warren, and if anybody's interested, please contact me.
Thanks, Julie. And this will be in the resources document as well. It's great to see you. Julie's got her doctorate from Columbia in the United States of America with Herb Ginsberg, right?
That's correct. And John Black, yeah.
Good people, man.
Wow, man, that's the real deal.
Yeah, he wrote the book. He wrote the book on cognitive science and a lot of things, but
a lot of things. Yeah, and my first Distant Magic was like 2004.
Yeah, with your baby. Remember that?
So that was a bit later. That was
yeah. And Robin brought a one laptop per child.
Right, we have that picture, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
he's in middle school now, so.
Lovely, Julie. I got another person who might need to jump off.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry if I mispronounced this. Azadeh? Is it Azadeh? Am I saying that wrong?
No, you said it correctly. Yes. Or Ozzy. Ozzy is the easier
Ozzy.
version.
Ozzy.
How are you?
All right.
Good. Thank you. How are you doing? Very good seeing you all too. Sorry, I also have to leave at 2:15. I'm actually need to go join a birthday party for a child. So
okay. All right.
The new word of the us that we can do everything online or remotely. But so glad to seeing you all, and I love to tell you a little bit about Giant Room. And basically my experience has been through Tigli and designing apps and hardware, and then more through hardware, and now focusing on space for kids to come and actually play with all these different gadgets and tools, and come up with ideas and build their ideas using different material in the space. And we had our first hub last November. We opened, and you can imagine when it was March, then all of a sudden it was like a heart attack for all of us that we created this whole thing. And after 3-4 months, we had to actually close it. And then as through March to July, we taught a lot about what does this whole new remote learning mean? How can we bring this hands-on learning experience to kids online? And how can we basically bring this whole culture of that we were trying to build through kids, for them to come up with their ideas, for us to not to tell them what to do, but they come there and they say this is what they want to do, and we just help them to build it. And how can we make that possible online? And we've done many different experimentations. And one of the amazing things that we've seen since March, how kids have adapted very well to online learning. And even though we think it may be all based on screen, how they bring all these different tools and material, and they actually work on projects, hands-on projects, even if it's in front of the camera. And the other thing is that we've been actually using many of the apps and toys that you all have designed as part of these sessions. And the nice thing is that now we can use for example, apps for kids to share their iPad screen with us, and we play together. And then they have Sago box, they bring it in and they play together. So it's really a mix of different forms of learning. Another interesting thing that we've seen is schools are adopting more and more hybrid learning. So one big, even if they're having in-person or online remote learning, one big challenge is that they cannot have enrichment classes or other experts to go to the school. So they are adapting into this hybrid learning, that we actually go to their classroom even if the students are in person, and some of the students join online, and that's been very interesting to see how the whole thing works out. But anyway, so just wanted to give a quick
great to see you. You picked a great time to start a physical business where people walk in, didn't you?
Yes, although right now online is actually really good for us. We did reopen Giant Room in September, and the interesting thing is that kids some days come to our space, and some days they join us online. And we have now students in Kuwait and Israel, and so now we made it more international. Yeah.
It's great to hear from you. Well, I want to hope you guys can. As always, I would always ask, how are you guys doing? 25 jumping jacks. Krista, are there other things that come up in the chat?
I'll definitely let you know. The one thing is, obviously people thought it was 2 hours. They're probably going to be leaving. It might be nice, Warren, at this point, just to share what's going to happen as a follow-up. We're going to send the recording. We'll send the chat history. We'll send everyone who participated. So you'll get that. Are there other things, Warren?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I mean, in terms of housekeeping, yeah. Initially, when I thought of doing this was I was going through a period of mourning with oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all my spare time and Halloween candy? And there's no people sleeping on the couches here. What are we going to do? And missing Barbara's stuff from New Mexico, and I need some chili. Anyway, but I was thinking, let's just have a quick Zoom. It'll be an hour. And then I thought, okay, maybe 2 hours. And then I started looking at everybody. And so what I'd suggest we do is that we save this recording so far. I'm not doing anything this afternoon. So look, guys, you were going to be driving all the way from upstate New York or getting on a plane from Paris or wherever, right? So, you know, what could be a better afternoon? What I would suggest we do is like, yeah, we can kind of do a stop right now for those guys so you can duck out. I know you are anyway, but if you want to just leave your screen on, go do stuff and come back. I'm going to keep plowing through the slides until everyone has a chance. I will share them in a public way, so they'll be on the Duster Magic YouTube channel. They'll be there as a YouTube asset, so you can link to it and share it. And the mission is just let's get this out to the industry, because there's a lot of conferences that didn't happen this year and meetings that are so important to a field of discourse. And I think this is critically important, this conversation we're having. So that's the idea. And so if you guys wouldn't mind, contribute to the offline stuff, even though you're not talking. Build a document, and I'll save the chat log as well. You know, this is all going to consider it a form of publishing and helping. What are the lessons you've learned during the pandemic? What can we do to help children with technology? What are the emerging trends that you would give to students at TCNJ in terms of what they should be focusing on for their thesis projects? And if you were 19 or 20 and, you know, had technology skills, what would you recommend? Those are all really valuable. And thank you for your generous sharing. But what I'd like to do is just to give a break, let you guys talk. I'll leave the cameras on, just informally share. I haven't heard it all from darn Carson's.
Hey, you know what? We didn't do the egos yet. So I was thinking if everybody could get a raw egg and a Sharpie, and then, you know, draw your ego on the egg. And then I find if you put it in your microwave, just like this, and set it for about 5 minutes, it should take care of your egos. And if you don't have a microwave, you can use a mallet, which I've actually been playing whack-a-mole with all of you guys all this time. It's been helpful.
And after this, I think Joe, we're going to come back to Joe Shockett, Code Spark. I've been dying to hear what you're up to. Michelle Cripinelli, I'm eager to hear just a quick report from, you know, Ocean House. It's been a long time. And
sounds good. I can do it real quick after Joe, if you like.
That'd be great. And Connie, I know you have a slide. I can't wait to hear what a fair lady's doing. I still hear Jens say, Grandpa, Grandma, you know.
Nice.
That was a special. And over the years, as I look back on what counts, you know, this is critical. So thank you guys all. But you don't have to leave. Neil, I haven't heard from you from I think in Poland. I hope you'll pitch in at some point. And also Fita, I haven't heard from you guys. I know you've done some great work, Wolfgang, and that's Timber. How's that for sound effects, Mark?
Liked it.
But I'm going to take
wolf and you barked.
I know, right? How's the pirate, our favorite pirate, doing?
Hi, Warren. Nice to be part of this here. Yeah, we are quite good. Also in quarantine, but yeah, we are working from home, everybody. So there's new stuff coming out, but we need some more time, since we did a contractor's job for a German TV station. So that's quite nice. So Fita has to wait a little bit till, I don't know, till next year, I think.
Fita Hide and Go Seek is a really phenomenal app. It's one of the ones on my grandson's iPad.
Oh, and great.
Yeah, that's if you guys haven't played with that, it's a great accidental success where you just, you know, it really works for him. So good job on that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and but what's an all-time favorite is Fita World, because yeah, it's open and creative, and it's a bit for older kids than your grandson. So
Yeah,
that's quite good when you see retention numbers there. And it shows me, okay, you have to put the magic into the hands of the kids, because they have to do things that you don't pre-script, and make happy accidents happen there for them. So that's from all of our apps, the most downloaded one. And and I have some slides with me, and maybe I can show them later, because we did something similar for the TV station for a brand that's very well known in Germany.
Great. Well,
definitely do that, and we'll get you the deck, and we can have you add them to the deck. If someone could actually put the link to the deck in chat, that would be helpful. People have a little bit longer. Is that okay?
Sounds good, Krista. Thank you. Alexa, add 5 minutes onto the timer.
5 minutes added. You now have about 10
Very
minutes.
good.
You need to get some food or break or go to the washroom.
Oh my God, it worked.
This is a great time to do it. If you need just to leave, that's fine. I know this is going over, but for those of you that can stay, I think the fun will continue. Warren's going to
Get it.
continue.
Yeah, go
to
get
lead.
an egg. You guys go get an egg and put it in the microwave. How long, Darren?
5 minutes. Good.
5 minutes will do her. Yeah.
Or until you hear the splash.
Right.
I missed something. Warren, why doesn't the egg explode after about 1 minute?
I don't know, Roger. You would know that better than anybody else that I know.
All right, I'll come back with a picture for you.
Could you please? That'd be
And
really
Warren
cool.
has to personally come and help clean it up.
Well,
I hate to
yeah.
egg you on like that, Roger, but I guess we will egg you on.
I was staring at one Hollywood box, but I meant to be addressing Darren. Sorry.
I'll come over with the scraper.
Robin, did you watch any of the Unity for Humanity Summit conference last week?
No. Did I?
They
No,
had a
should I
two-
have?
Well, Jessica Lindell, who was the global head of education, is now the general manager and vice president for social impact. And she pulled together a conference of kind of everybody that's making things for learning or health or social impact things with Unity. And it was really quite interesting. And not only that, they announced a competition. They're going to fund social impact projects that are created in Unity. So there's like a 1 month window from October 20th to November 20th for people to submit proposals.
Wow, yeah, you should include that link in the chat and definitely take a look at it. Yeah,
well,
I've been kind of immersed in virtual events, figuring out now that my company's sold, how I can, and I created a group called VEG, the Virtual Events Group. And right now it's pretty informal. People are just getting together online and sharing best practices. People from all different industries, National Retail Foundation, Toy Association, CES, and just invite them all in to bellyache and complain, and hopefully get the vendors who are creating these video platforms and conference platforms to listen to their needs. So Unity might be, hadn't actually even thought about it as in my platform list. I now have 150 platforms. So what has happened in this industry since the pandemic is sort of like what happened with PCs when people figured out they could solder a motherboard. They're just coming out of the sky. There are just millions of conferencing platform products out there that need to be, the wheat has to be separated from the chaff, and trying to work on that.
And how was the link again for this? That you just mentioned for this award thing?
Unity Summit.
For this funding.
Unity Summit.
get it. It was an 8-minute presentation by a woman named Amy. I'll send the link and then you can go to the agenda. Well, actually, if you just go to Unity, I think it's unity.com humanity, that all the information is there, but I'll double check the link.
We did work on an app that raises awareness for climate change, and it's for kids, for preschoolers, and is maybe something that could be interesting for them. So thanks for the link. I will reach out to them.
Yeah, you really should, because that was one of the things that they talked about. And really the only requirement, it's an international program, the only requirement is really, it's a person, anybody 18 or over, but you have to be making something, because they're going to give you money and they're going to give you technical support and so forth. So, and even if it's a half-baked idea and you say you want to make it, they're going to look at it.
And it's already done. It has to be just programmed, but the illustrations are all done, and it has various topics in it. It's about eating less meat. It's about saving energy at home. So stuff that kids can do at their home, and yeah, it's pretty much done. So I'm not sure where in the process they are coming in. But yeah, I would love to show it to them.
Yeah, it's unity.com/humanity is where they talk about all this.
We didn't have anyone from Tokaboka.
Well, they got bought.
It's true. Yeah, and they kind of stopped making stuff. I did send a email up to Bjorn.
Bjorn is now a journalist, right?
He's always been a journalist.
But now, like, that's his day gig.
I know. He went to journalism school. That's where he studied.
No, he knew his publishing. Yes, but I actually did translate his first article, like, as well as Google did translate it.
Yeah, and Caroline, the COO in San Francisco, she's now in some venture capital incubator program. I mean, as a executive in residence.
Yeah.
So she left too.
She's spinning up something new, and she's advising a whole bunch of different projects.
Sorry, who are we talking about? I just stepped out for a second.
Tokaboka.
Bjorn Jeffrey.
Oh, yeah, Caroline.
And
Yeah.
Caroline.
Yeah.
What about Jens? Has anyone seen JP?
Occasionally on Facebook. That's about it.
He's at Nick now.
Oh, that's a good spot
active.
for him.
That's a good spot.
No, wait a minute. I thought he was the creative director for Hello Saurus.
He was.
Ah.
He moved on.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to say for all the grandparents out there that we have been getting incredible mileage with a few puppets. That we get if you get a puppet going, and the kids, you can keep your grandkids involved forever. All right? Yeah. Made me think of it when Aaron brought the duck up. Hey, Edwin, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
The duck's eating my banana.
We found that anybody's kids or grandkids, we can get them to stay on twice as long with the puppet. And we pulled out my youngest grandson has never watched television and has only been to daycare a few times. And hey, come over. And then we brought Elmo out, and he just went. You gotta look up. He goes, Elmo. And so everybody's kids. I've been talking to I've been getting a lot of mileage because Elmo lives at my house. So we've been working with Jim and with Darren, and you know, we know a lot about play patterns and we know a lot about creating great apps for kids, but we're in this whole new area ourselves where we're studying co-play. So when you have an agent who used to be who your kids played with in a program, the agent is now, as Jim was saying, just a facilitator. And so we're learning out how to help grandparents be better at co-play with their grandchildren. And it's a lot of Fred stuff is in here, Fred Rogers and other people, but it's really, you're poking me, okay? Yeah, just my co-partner here. So so we're
screen sharing.
We're screen sharing. So it's really been a deep dive for us into territory that we're somewhat unfamiliar with, and now we're getting a handle on it, and it's really quite fun. You know, it's I think it's something that all grandparents need to know, is to learn how to play with their grandchildren. And I found a picture. Let's see if I put it up here. Where was it? Here, this one. So I can get it to come up. I'll share it with you. Warren was talking about his grandson, and
I think Warren said.
oh, it's not letting me screen share. I got a picture of Warren on the floor with his grandson, chasing him around the floor on his hands and knees. Can you all see that?
There he is. Yeah. Oh, that's Lyndon. Wow.
He's down on his hands and knees, and he's following around, and we're finding out there's a lot of different grandparenting styles. Some are the hug you up kind, and some are the get on the floor and play, and some are the kind that read you stories and talk to you. But the real trick with this age group is because they're only parallel players, is that you've got to meet the kids where they are.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of grandparents don't do. They think, well, they should listen to me because I'm their grandfather or whatever. But you go down and you watch what they're doing, and then you mimic what they're doing. And after a while, they notice that you're mimicking them, and then they give you something else to mimic with, and then it slowly turns into a cooperative kind of co-play. But it's all about meeting kids where they are.
Amen.
So anyway, that's a little bit about the project we're working on without telling you too much about it.
It is a rainy, cold day, and we're kind of lucky we're not trying to get somewhere. I remember when Chip was trying to drive to the inn and got lost, or had a rental car, I think, and I always worry about you guys so much on this day. It's like, oh, I can just relax. Everyone's home safe. No one's going to get sick. It is actually pretty safe here in terms of our infection rates in New Jersey, and we've got some empty bedrooms upstairs. So come on over and visit. Right, Zane?
Was also easier today.
What's that?
Oh, sorry, this is Damon. I said the load-in was also easier today.
Yes, it was. I was thinking about like setting up the PA and all of the projectors, lining them up. It's like, oh my God, I'm not doing that. We are going to get to the schools, and I want to make sure we focus on that. I know Kelly's there, and I want to hear what she's been doing with Evan Moore, and also there is some degree of structure to this, but staying with the order of the slides, Joe, I'd like to hear what you're doing with CodeSpark. You've got some slides in here, and then
Joe, can you share the slides again, Warren? Sure. So I represent CodeSpark, which is now 6 or 7 years old. We teach coding to young kids as early as kindergartners.
You guys can see the screen? Okay, good.
So building on the remote learning pandemic, our company has been growing. We've doubled our usage and revenue, and everything is trending up. This Splash Clash was a feature that we started working on pre-pandemic, and it is to get kids coding remotely online. So it plays a little bit like checkers. You code in your moves, and then the other person takes a turn. We launched it in April, which was perfect timing because kids going home could play against their classmates or their cousins, someone with an iPad next to them or across the world. And our usage was great on that. This is our first multiplayer expansion.
Tell me when to switch the slide if you want.
Yeah, go ahead to the next one. This is something we're working on now. We only get to build 2 or 3 big things in the year. We're a small team still. Currently, most of our usage is in creation. So kids are coding and building sort of Super Mario style games and stories. Kids are making upwards of 40,000 projects a day on our platform. We think it's probably the world's biggest creative coding platform for kids.
Congratulations.
This is an expansion. Yeah. This is an expansion of that. It lets kids build adventure games based on some of our work funded through the Department of Education that lets kids create stories. We're going to let them make Legend of Zelda style adventure games. Just building on what Jason was talking about. And this is actually something I'd like to get feedback on, if anything. We, like Jason was saying, we built out a parent portal. We built it inside of our app. And with a lot of the same idea that like we don't have a lot of kid tracking, we tried to start a conversation. We released, I think, 40 articles, almost blog posts, things like how can I help my child? How can I see if they're learning? We, one of the things that holds us back is not everyone knows what coding is or why it's important or why their kid should learn it. We actually haven't gotten great traction on this. The parents, the cynical view that parents want a parent portal but then won't use it is, largely true for us. And so I'm curious to hear from others, for things that have worked, things that have made a difference in their business, that have gotten parents to engage. Would love to talk offline even about that more. But overall, yeah, things are great. We're growing, we're hiring. We have a couple research projects that are ongoing and one we're waiting to hear back from the NSF. And it's been a crazy but fun year.
Well, you guys get an award for persistence. And
that's right. Well, at a startup, that's a lot of it. First, you have to survive, and then you have to grow.
Joe,
Looking good, Joe.
You should look at the stuff that Kim Smith of Learning Beautiful's been doing. I know Grant met her at the Promise Venture Studio.
She's part of our NSF grant, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Great stuff.
Because she did great parent activities this summer, 1 a week.
Oh, okay. I'll talk to her about that. Yeah.
So thanks. Next up, we've got a beautiful image here. This is Fita.
Yeah.
Fita World.
Yeah. Kind of.
So let's go to Germany.
Yeah.
What time is it?
Here it's 8:30. This is what I was talking about in the break. It's a Sandman. I'm not sure how aware
like the masks.
How aware you are of Sandmans in US. I know there's a horror movie, but in Germany it's a big thing for kids because the Sandman is going over the TV each day, each evening, and he has around 1.5 million viewers each day. So it's a big IP in Germany. And they reached out to us, and usually we don't do contraction work. We just do fetus stuff. But since this is such nice brand, which is around 60 years old, we couldn't say no. And it was actually a pitch. So there were other agencies involved also, but we pitched them something like Feed the World, because the Sandman movies, the Sandman stories are all stop motion, handmade stop motion videos. And it's a very unique style and looks very beautiful and very photorealistic, of course. And it has a big heritage. And so people love him for that. And they had an app, and it was very, very old, from 2012. So with the technical difficulties around that time, put together, okay, done, but now it needed a little bit of a newer approach. And we thought it would be really nice to give kids a puppet house, a digital one. And this is what you see here. Everything you see here, like, you know, Toka World, of course, and maybe some of, you know, Fita World. You can grab anything and put it together, combine it in creative ways. And as we see in Fita World, kids really love this open world approach. They really like it that you can hop on a boat here and really drive through the whole world, and then hop on a train or hop on a car or on a plane, and everything is moving, and you can really tell your own stories around, with that. And we have with our app that we saw the biggest retention rates in our whole portfolio. So we are looking forward for the launch of this one, because yeah, we put a lot of effort into having a different style here, a more photorealistic style. But yeah, hopefully kids will love it, and maybe you as well.
Well, it is great stuff. It always scores really high because it's very responsive. You can play anything you see that is interesting, does things. You can pick those apples. I love the masks. That's so cool.
Yeah. That was a wish coming due to COVID, of course. But I'm very happy that the TV station wanted to put that in, because it fits so well and speaks so well to the children, that the Sandman now is also in this situation and have to handle that. They can really play with that. So I think that's a very, very good and modern approach, that an app is not such a thing that is out there and has nothing to do with yourself. So I like that very much.
Well, I miss seeing you in Italy, and hopefully next year or the year next.
Yeah. I hope
So
so.
Warren, Gail has a question for Wolfgang. Does Sandman have language built in, or is it language free?
It's mainly language free, but yeah, we try to convince the TV station to do it also in an English version. But when you come to Germany, you have a lot of bureaucracy, and so we couldn't do an English version, not because we wanted not to, because of the rights. The rights of the song, the rights of different stuff inside there. And so it will be available outside of Germany, but it's not translated. So we suggested it to translate it, because we think it's great for kids outside of Germany as well, because it's without any language, so easily for global audience. But yeah, I'm looking forward to launch that thing in November now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. You guys are. And do you guys use Unity?
Yes, of course. Yeah, since several years now, and yeah, it's
well, the aesthetic is there.
We've seen and heard from Alexa in the background, but nobody's really talked about designing on voice. Awesome. So the first thing I wanted to say, well, I lead marketing and business development for Creativity, which is a design studio that has been making toys and digital experiences for kids for 20 plus years. Voice is somewhat newer to us, but it really goes along with the history of the company being powered by audio. So it was a really easy shift for us. And when people think of voice, a lot of people think of themselves as consumers with content on Alexa or Google. But I want to make a case that voice is not just a marketing tool. It's really a modality that people really need to think about. Next slide. So I just had three insights that I wanted to share related to how voice is really being adopted more quickly than ever. In a study by Internet Matters, they mentioned that new technology in the home is being adopted 3 or 4 years earlier than expected. And voice is one of those channels that's become really important. In a recent study by Adobe, they noted that of people who self-reported using voice, 39% of those were using it for the first time this year. And also that 31% said they would prefer to use voice in public settings because they don't want to touch anything. So it's not only because families are stuck at home wanting to do stuff, it's also because going out, they don't want to touch anything, of course, because of the pandemic. The second thing is screen time continues to be a concern, but I also argue that voice is more about augmented reality and being able to sort of listen to things rather than seeing things. So it doesn't intermediate people's conversations, and it's easier to play games together without a screen because you're hearing it and sort of thinking about it. The last insight is that a lot of people who already have tried voice on either a phone or a smart speaker in the car are thinking about it for their kids already. And kids themselves are also driving the future of voice because they're asking it, they don't conform to the constructs that adults do when they're using it. They really test the models and ask a bunch of questions and sort of break things. They're not afraid of that. So they're actually really important to accelerating voice as a technology as well. So the voice market is forecasted to be 8.4 billion devices in 2024. And that's smart speakers, smart TVs is a really big one that's growing because everything's shipping with that. Stupid things like your microwave and refrigerator, of course, too, but also think about all the billions of phones that are in the market. So next slide. Last technology that is really interesting for toys and kids is Amazon Alexa gadgets. So this technology is bringing down the cost of having cloud computing voice modality on toys. Before this, it was really cost prohibitive to make a toy that kids could play with that was powered by Alexa. But with a couple products that are shipping actually today, which creativity helped with, Fuzzable Friends from Jazzwares and the Alexa 2-in-1 kitchen, you can now play with products and then the voice is sort of just passively happening around them. So the point is voice is going to be everywhere. It's a modality that kids are going to be very, very comfortable with and that they're going to expect to interact with. It means that if you're an app developer, you might want to think about integrating this into your products as a possible way to sort of play in addition to touch and, obviously like looking at graphics. And the other thing is that kids are going to just start talking to things. It's very natural for them. I have two other icons on here, which are two apps that we developed of our own IP. We do a lot of service work for other clients. But Animal Rock is a really fun skill for Alexa where you can sort of create a whole music experience by choosing different members from different bands and then hearing the songs that you play. And Toy Doctor was inspired by the pandemic, and it features a screened experience, which only 7% of consumers are really using screens yet because it's still new, but starting to integrate visuals as a second modality to voice, which is still the primary one, is going to be a trend that's emerging as well.
Awesome. What do you think of Apple's new voice speaker thing? Is it
the hub? I think that it's great that they got into this more commoditized market and created something that was under $100 by $1 so that they can hopefully get in more people's homes. I think most of the tech has already been out there with Alexa and other people. In the voice development world, it's not open yet to get onto Siri. So we're not really getting there. I think everybody's hopeful that we will get there more sooner rather than later. But I think this allows Apple to try and catch up by being in more people's homes.
I also reviewed I think it was Knowledge Adventure, maybe, or Jumpstart, that you can pretty much tell. I could ask right now for a math worksheet for the 5s or something. And it'll print it out. If you've got your speaker hooked up to your printer, you can actually it's worksheet on command, which I'm sure Gail, other constructivists are kind of like makes you cringe. like, why couldn't you print out other things?
Scott, can we also, if you are jumping off, I did see that you had a couple slides. Would it be possible for you to go ahead and share those?
I think Warren can jump to it. It's number 44 in your list. This is a very, what appears to be a very simple product. I am not involved with it at all, but I'm a huge fan of it. It's called Purble. The inventor of Purble was on the call earlier. Her name was Mia Doses from the Committee for Children. It's a nonprofit. This very unseemly technical plush doll has an electronic heartbeat, sensors, and an accelerometer inside. When you turn it on, its heart is beating so fast that the goal of the child is to calm it by patting it on the head or hugging it. It's pretty darn amazing. And I wish Mia was here to tell us more, but I had to share this with the group since this is an opportunity to talk about really high quality products. I think this is one of them. I would have nominated for a Cappy if I could.
Wow.
Speaking of which, on the next slide, I've just included an art. Last year around this time, I wrote an article for what do Cappy judges look for in quality technology experiences for kids. It ran, a short piece of it ran on Kids Screen a year ago. I've updated it and expanded it. This is what I would be sharing with others today if we were talking about the Cappies. There's a link there to my 10 tips of how to make award-winning products for kids. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Certainly if, here, I'm gonna just post a link to it as well. Other insights or ideas, happy to hear and update from time to time. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Scott. Your conciseness is exactly what I had sort of envisioned at the beginning of this thing, but it's like so hard not to. Yeah, awesome. Purble, got it.
Purble, and it's such a shame Mia's not online here because I know she wouldn't have stepped up to talk about it. I think I'm not related to it in any way, but I just think it's pretty amazing.
So let's go to school. Yeah.
I'm back teaching since 1.5 years as a primary school teacher.
That's Kristen over in Germany.
Yeah, in Germany. So I'm so happy I didn't start in the pandemic, but a year earlier, because teaching is so hard in the classroom. And in Germany, we can't opt for homeschooling. You have to go to school, or schools are closed and you have to go home. Like, it's not a parent decision. And the weirdest thing happened that I'm in charge for the IT and the digital stuff in our school. I got iPads. I set up the school now on Microsoft Teams to have a tool to teach the kids at home. And I never, ever used one of my apps. And I'm teaching exactly the year that it would be perfect for. And I've got the iPad in the classroom, and I never, ever got to use one of my apps.
That's crazy.
It's the craziest thing, because those apps were designed for a kid to learn. But those apps are not designed for collaboration or for communication. And the only thing we're trying to get now is trying to have some method to talk to children when they're not in school. So all we're doing is try to get them on MS Teams, try to learn, teach them how to send stuff, how to use a video system, whatever. Zoom was forbidden. They were all on Zoom. It was forbidden now. So when the schools were closed, we had Zoom meetings with the class, and it was one of the most important dates in the week for the kids. It was only once a week, and basically just saying hello. And it was so important. The communication, the feeling of being a group, and it was the opposite of teaching. So I had the weirdest year, realizing that all I've been doing as an app developer is complete nonsense in the school.
Interesting.
In the pandemic, like it's crazy.
Huh.
So it was. We're looking for something else. We're looking for a tool that children can use without the help of their parents. And we're speaking first graders who can't read.
Yep.
So it's.
Well, you're so lucky you have a leader who can make logical decisions about how to deal with a pandemic. We're all jealous of you.
Yeah, thank God she's a scientist.
Yeah, you had the right leader at the time.
She did math, but she even got it wrong. We're at the point where she thought we would be in Christmas, and we're closing down on Monday.
Can we borrow her just in case?
No, we're not giving you away.
United States. So let's jump out. We have Krista. We've got we've got several people here. Gail, who really kind of Roger. I don't know if you're still working with schools, but
actually I am. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I know we also had Peter Reynolds. I don't think he's logged in though, but and Connie. So let's start with Connie's slides. Dr. Bashō is a fellow educational psychologist and lover of chickens. So we share some things.
Exactly.
And
Can
your daughters are amazing. Oh my God, they're so wonderful. Your kids are.
I can't believe I have one starting high school now. She just started high school this semester. That's just, the time is going way too fast.
And my youngest is now in medical school. Jenna, actually, she made it. So yeah, they grow up fast. She'll be taking out your kidney. So be careful.
It's good stuff though.
Fixing Valerie's foot.
Start training digital.
Give us an update.
Well, I'll tell you what, as an educational psychologist, as soon as this whole pandemic thing started, as soon as they started shutting down the schools, I was watching with morbid fascination as these giant changes started sweeping across our school district. And we have one of the largest school districts in the whole United States. We're the 14th largest with 161,000 students in it. So any changes that we were going to make were going to need to be big and fast and sweeping changes, even though we were working with this behemoth school district. So it's actually been really exciting to watch. Fortunately, right away, Governor Roy Cooper in our state is sort of put the task on the various districts and kind of gave them a lot of freedom to come up with various plans so that then the state could act on those various suggestions. So what our county did, I thought it would be useful to sort of share a snapshot of what our county did, because two things. One, I think that other counties may follow suit because we are one of the biggest counties. And so we were able to take kind of big actions that other counties may not have been able to take right away, but may take in the future. And then the other reason I think it would be useful to sort of share this snapshot is for those of you who are familiar with what other school districts are doing, maybe you can start drawing comparisons and figuring out so that we can all figure out together what is going to work best for different school districts and how we can vote to make changes, you know, to get the results that we want in the various school districts in the states and counties where we all live and countries. So basically what happened here was they started off by sending out parent surveys, and they had a really good format for the survey in which each parent could put in little 200-character suggestions, and then every other parent could view those suggestions and rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. And then the very highest liked suggestions floated to the top, and the least liked suggestions floated to the bottom. As you can imagine, I put in, I don't know, a lot of suggestions because as an educator, I couldn't help it. And you could make a suggestion, you know, they ranged from if the school's open, masks should be required. Or it was, you know, teachers should be given the tools to assist with online learning, or students should be issued laptops, things like that. So after they did those surveys, they realized that it was very important for parents to be able to choose whether or not to send their children back to school or whether to keep them at home. So they came up with a plan in which this virtual academy was created. And Virtual Academy is fully online for K-12 students with an opt-in with parents. If you opt in, you have to opt in for an entire semester, a half year of school. You can't go switching back and forth midway through the semester. they had originally anticipated that 30% would opt in based on those original surveys. But when push came to shove and North Carolina's numbers were going up and up, they ended up having 53% or 83,000 students enrolling in the virtual academy. In order to help support those students, especially given the digital divide, there were a lot of students who didn't have access to the technology required. The county purchased 50,000 Chromebooks and 16,000 hotspots and distributed those across the county. They had 4 different high schools where we went and picked up the Chromebooks and hotspots. And our house is in a very rural area. So we went ahead and got we got a hotspot, and then our kids also got 2 of the Chromebooks. They got brand new Chromebooks to be used for school. And when we picked them up, I thought it was interesting. The woman who handed me the Chromebooks, she said, take good care of these. These are going to stay with your student until 12th grade. So they're already thinking ahead to what's going to happen in the coming years. So this is something that I think it's a little bit more forward thinking on the part of the county than a lot of other areas, I think, in the United States. They're already thinking about what is this going to change for our district going forward. And then students are also given this other option, which is called Plan B or Plan B transition. And in those cases, those students are on a 3-week rotating schedule between in-person and online instruction. But the in-person students are required to bring their own devices. So again, they are counting on every student having connectivity at all times. In this way, the county can spontaneously do a closure of a school and nobody is going to say, oh, I don't have a device, I don't have internet or something like that. So this way, every single student has a device and connectivity. The other change that was interesting was that the school calendar now includes 5 remote learning days. And that's going to go forward even past the pandemic. It's a permanent thing where teachers are supposed to plan for some number, a minimum of 5 remote learning days each year. And that number will vary depending on, whatever factors are affecting us at that time. And then also the North Carolina state government has just approved a relief package specifically for schools, which did give a payment to households with school-aged children, but it also, normally schools get their funding based on their enrollment numbers. And so there was a lot of concern that if students drop out of school in order to start doing homeschooling, that those schools would lose funding for that. And so the relief package doesn't hold schools accountable for loss of enrollment so that the schools can keep their teachers hired and all of their staff and employees and things like that. So that's
Are you talking on the hotspot right now?
No, I'm on our other internet right now, but the issued hotspot, it's a little bit flaky, but other than that, it's good enough. Am I cutting out at all?
No, you're great. I'm just wondering, that umbilical cord is so critical, and that, it really is both a combination of the having some sort of a wireless connection as well as a device. But yeah, fascinating. Well,
so there were 2 questions I saw came up in the chat. One is, did educators get a choice? Yes, teachers get to choose whether they want to teach for virtual academy or in person. The other thing I didn't mention was a child in the virtual academy is still affiliated with their own home school, and they will be taught by teachers in their own home school as well. So in that way, because they're still affiliated, if the schools were to open up spontaneously, then those kids can still join student clubs, they can still do sports, they could do marching band, they could do art club, they could be in the school play, things like that. Only they would be still taking their online courses, but they can still be involved with every other aspect of their regular school. The other question I saw
is Chromebooks.
Yes.
K2. Did you use Chromebooks for K2?
Yeah. So any student can get a Chromebook, K to 12, any age student. And it's basically just does the parent want their student to have it? No questions asked. There's no like criteria or anything. But the teachers are going to use the technology differently. And then the scheduling is different depending on the grades. And then the amount of screen time is different depending on grades. So there's a lot of things that are different according to grade, if that answers the question. And there was another question. Yeah, and then devices are provided to families regardless of whether they choose in person or online. So anybody who wanted to get a device could get a device and a hotspot, so that the school district has the flexibility to be able to, at any time, close a school and the students still have access to online instruction. So if you want to go to the next slide, Warren. So what did this turn into? I was really curious watching, because I knew that the teachers had, I think it was 2 days of training to become online instructors. And I thought, wow, 2 days to learn so much. So at the beginning, the teachers were very much scrambling. Oh, and by the way, I'm a substitute teacher and I have a lot of teacher friends. So I was able to kind of get a window into what was happening behind the scenes a little bit. So the teachers were really scrambling to find tools to, as quickly as possible, as Kristen said, reach out to their students, engage, communicate, just touch base, just enough to start getting a to and from connection with their students. All instruction started off online, even if you were in the plan B, because our numbers were going up. Now the kids are going back, they're back in the physical classroom, but in the beginning, everyone started online. So the teachers had to come up with tools. The default has been Google Classroom, and they use Google Meet, Slides, Docs. They're not allowed to use Zoom for various security reasons. They're also not allowed to do any video recording of any class sessions. So if a child is absent, there's no way for the child to sort of, catch up on what was missed or something like that. They can't record any class sessions. So the teachers have been relying on 12 tools that I've noticed very heavily. Now, these are for middle school and high school based on my own kids' experiences. But basically, Edpuzzle, Pear Deck, Quizlet, Quizzes, Nearpod, Kahoot, GimKit, TED-Ed, Amoeba Sisters, Kami, GoFormative, Flipgrid. And all of those are like their online quizzing tools, kind of game show style quizzing. There's a lot of video sharing, like Flipgrid is for video sharing. Kahoot is like a competitive quizzing kind of tool. They also have Edpuzzle, which is this video software that the teacher can have it automatically pause the video lesson and force the student to answer a question before they can continue. So a lot of these kind of online tools are what the teachers are really grasping for. And it's interesting because these are tools that aren't necessarily like the highest quality things on the market, but they are there waiting for them. So when the teachers search for online quizzing tool, like these are the things that pop up. And so they're sort of scrambling to use these various kinds of tools to learn how to engage and interact with their teachers. And they're overcoming a lot of interesting challenges. Like my daughter is taking French right now. And how do you get kids to speak French, write French, have the ability to give quizzes in French and things like that? So her French teacher, I think, is using GimKit because it allows you to, I think it was GimKit. Just look at my notes real quick.
So Connie, I'm just pause you there. Thank you so much. And also Kristen, it's such a good window into, I think, what boots on the ground, the kinds of things they're facing. And like you said, they're facing, kind of this not only adjustment to online, but how do you do that effectively in all of these ways? And I'm just wondering if tutoring is something that your district, high dosage tutoring, one-on-one tutoring, has considered. I know many districts in urban cities are looking at adding tutoring to help deal with learning loss.
Yeah, I haven't seen it as sort of an official thing from the county, but I'm part of some forums in which people are sort of offering, like there's parent forums for some of the local schools, and there's people in there who are offering tutoring services and stuff like that. But I haven't seen that at the county level to help kids maybe one-on-one to learn their math facts or learn whatever they need to do. The teachers have been really good about our experience has been the teachers have been really good about working to help the kids catch up. One thing that we have heard from both principals at both of my daughter's schools are that the failure rates are higher, the grades are generally lower right now. And so the schools are actually looking for ways to sort of help give additional support to help those kids not fall through the cracks at this time. They're sending out surveys, asking like we got a survey last week from one of my daughter's schools saying, your child received excellent grades this semester. What are you doing as a parent to help support your child so that we can share those tips with other parents? So things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like tutoring comes out of those discussions.
Let's hear from Barb, and then we'll have a few thought leaders give a few responses.
Leaders.
We're all thought leaders. Have a few very brief. Okay, so we're going to try and close in 20 minutes. So brief is the watchword.
Hey, everybody. So Learning Games Lab at NMSU, we're a nonprofit design studio. We do stuff for preschool all the way through adult. And a lot of our most recent work has been like virtual labs or games for K-12 or even for concepts in college students. So this is just a quick plea. One of the things we were set to do is to do in-class assessment of our latest game, Outbreak Squad, which is to help kids understand the complexity of responses needed to prevent a health outbreak. Who knew it would be so timely? But we were supposed to do in-class research in March of last year, and that didn't happen. So we are trying to do assessment online. So if you'd go ahead and present that slide, maybe, Warren, it'd be a little easier to on there. So if you have a middle school in your life or access to a middle schooler, please send them to Outbreak Squad.
Good marketing to plan a pandemic for your app release.
My apologies that we made that happen. Yeah, Krista, I think, it's a trick.
Talk offline, but I would love to make the districts I'm working with aware that this exists. For me, this seems like a huge opportunity.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you. I'd like that. We're also trying to figure out, like, does it change views of careers? The idea is you cannot solve a health pandemic by just offering medical care. You have to have long-term research. You have to have enforcement. You have to have all these different things. The trickiest part about doing research about this is getting the consent form signed because, there's that back and forth issue. Anyway, so if you know middle schoolers, they can click that give us feedback link and we'll do it. So thanks, Krista. All right, now you can move it forward if you want, Warren. I think since we met last year, we've released our 3 free algebra games, Agronomica and Cursors, which both deal with for grades 5th and up. Although we've had a lot of multi-age classrooms during COVID, and really each of these are about concepts for pre-algebra, introducing variables in either ways, but also just operations. So we've had 2nd grade classrooms using these games to just introduce operators and how to make it work. So those, along with all our math snacks, are available free online at mathsnacks.org. Next, please. I love it when people share data, so I thought we'd just share a little bit of data. On the left, you can see that in all of 2019, we had 86,000 app downloads. In fact, we were starting to say, we may not do a lot of apps, and that went up 861% with COVID.
Wow.
Just actually, and that wasn't all of 2019. That was just January through July. And most of those app downloads were in March, April, May. So clearly apps were what schools and parents went to in the panic of COVID. And what's interesting is we're seeing that sustain still. We're not story toys. We're not developing apps that have millions of downloads, but it has been very interesting to see the trend. That's been driven a lot by our games and by our interactive labs, how to use a microscope, that kind of thing. But the gameplay story, I think, is also interesting. If we look at the January to July period, that went down 19%. But that's actually incredible because more than half of our games were done in Flash. And so a lot of our games left the market because they were no longer available in Flash. And if you look at just the past 2 months, we've seen an increase from 25% over last year, and that's with half as many games. So what that tells me that, yeah, rest in peace, Flash. We are all in that position of redoing all of our Flash games. It's been really interesting seeing that initial kind of panic in March where everybody wanted digital things. And then kind of the summer it evened out. And then in August and September, as schools have been coming back in, the demand is coming back up again. And I see that as a positive thing because we're seeing teachers become more comfortable with digital tools and honestly, really actively looking for options. And so that has been really interesting to see that that increase, even though we've had fewer games. That was it. 3 slides, bing, bang, boom.
No, that was amazing. And for those of you who don't know these games, Math Snacks, I think they're some of the highest quality learning games on the market.
Oh, thanks, Krista.
And just more people should know about them. It's a huge resource.
I agree.
Yeah, thanks.
And if you guys could work on an app on the world peace next, that might be good.
Oh, right. I don't know if we make an app about world peace, will we be thrown into the opposite of world peace? I don't know. We're actually working on some cool things about insect pinning. So we're becoming entomologists. We're doing some stuff on My Plate for nutrition. We're doing some stuff for college students on different soil and chemistry concepts. So we got a lot of different fun things going. But I'll tell you, the clamor from professors and teachers to have interactive labs, the people are starting to say, oh my gosh, how do I add interactivity in a digital world? The need for that is really growing. Yeah. Or I don't say growing, I'd say the need for that is being recognized finally. And then the last thing I want to say is I just want to give a shout out to Amanda Armstrong, who I think is still on the call with us. So Amanda was with Erickson until we snagged her and she came down to NMSU. And Amanda, in addition to just general awesomeness, has been pegged with 2 fellowships in the past 6 months, I think. One is with New America, which is a think tank on civic progress, and the other was with NSF, National Science Foundation. So we're super proud of Amanda and the work she continues to do, and we're pretty impressed that NSF and New America were smart enough, not impressed, not surprised. We were very pleased to see that New America and NSF recognized what they have in her. So if you know America or want to give her a shout out in chat, it is certainly, one of those fellowships is worth recognizing too. Oh my gosh. So
yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
Between Chip and Barbara, she picked some pretty good teachers.
Yeah, we all like to claim her, pretending that we have something to do with it, but it's Amanda. It's Amanda. It's all Amanda.
All right, well, guys, we'll keep going, and we do have some. Yeah.
There were a couple of people who you specifically wanted, I just don't remember their names, that you wanted them to comment on education.
Yeah. Well, Roger and Gail
Roger and Gail, that's right. Gail and Roger, did you have any responses to Barb and Kristen and Connie?
Oh, I guess I wasn't.
You have a ton. But what short thing you can say, Roger?
In response to a specific thing. As far as just commenting, I'll just, as an update, it's been 13 years since I think we've shared anything at length, but as an update, I've been working with physical computing with the BBC microbit. And so last year, I was in a classroom every day with 6th grade kids doing computer science, building projects like a piano out of a pizza box, or then they would do an electronic game board. And then with the pandemic, all that shifted, and the school actually sent home the kits so that every student at the beginning of this year in the computer science classes had a pizza box with a BBC microbit. And then we were doing it through Zoom. And so a lot's been said here that's just wonderful. I'll just make my own comment that one of the things I thought was positive was and I'm using Zoom apparently. I didn't realize Zoom was banned in Boston, but something I found positive was the visual field. When I'm looking at you right now, our psychological, neurological distance is only about 24 inches. It's like I'm looking right at you. And when I was in the classroom with the kids, I would be shoulder to shoulder with the kids looking at something on their desk. but I wouldn't be looking into the kids' eyes at that distance. And the two things I noticed about Zoom that surprised me was that it felt much more personal, even though there were 30, well, there weren't 30, like 25 kids. It felt much more personal at the given moment I was speaking to any kid. And then we went into breakout rooms and there was a lot of kids teaching kids. So the way the class was run was the teacher would do an introductory bit, ask which kids on that day's lesson wanted to be helpers. And what I was surprised at is beginning in September and then increasing, more and more kids every day volunteered to be helpers in the breakout rooms. So the breakout rooms had three to four kids max. A kid in each room was actually there who had volunteered to help the other kids who were behind. So teaching others is the best way to learn. I think that was powerful. I think the visual feeling. And then the last thing was just, even though it looks like a Hollywood square thing, if you're in the speaker view, my sense, I would love to see a brain probe, the EEG kind of things they do, where if you're in a classroom and you're in behind the fifth kid in a row, it's easy to just disappear. But my feeling, totally unresearched or proven, is once the teacher's face is big on the screen and they can interact with you, I have a feeling that at the brain level, it feels much more like one-on-one, which seems to be counterintuitive unless you had been there.
I love that, Roger. I love that you're clearly an optimist in your heart. And I like that you're pointing out that there is some positives here. Gail, anything just to give you the last word?
Oh, the last word. Oh, no.
No, the last word for the education section. So these were sections. We were talking about schools. We're then going to the giant room. We would like to go there pretty quickly, but I just wanted to see if you had anything to add.
Quick. So my focus has always been and continues to be on preschool, pre-K, K, not yet readers, young learners, mostly in formal education settings, so schools and preschools. And COVID and the distancing of COVID has created incredible hardships for teachers, families, and children. One of the big differences is that for preschoolers and pre-K, they're not comparing it to the way it was. Their parents, their families maybe, but they are not. So they're not trying to substitute, how do you do virtual prom? They're just being kids. So that does create some advantages and some disadvantages. I think from a technological standpoint, some of the things that are really challenging are, one, a family who has 6 kids and 1 hotspot is, and parents are sometimes having to work at home as well. It's not a reasonable expectation. Interruptions in the homes for the kids who are at distance, that's a huge issue. Ways to circumvent the way things that teachers, I think, that I'm working with and I've been talking with, one of the things they need help with is easier sharing with little learners, talking about what you're thinking, talking about what you're doing, talking about what you made. All of that is incredibly important to cement the learning. And that's not yet easy for teachers or anyone to do with a group of students. That's a challenge that we need help with. Reading and language support is obviously really important because most of these children, or many of them, are not yet readers independently. We have found one big success, which is when the COVID started, parents and children and teachers had met in real world, and that helped them to engage when they went online. When this school year started, they had not met in real world. And the places where they encouraged that by teachers driving up and standing in the street in front of a home and talking to the child in the front door, those children and teachers have had better success in engaging. Those families have been more supportive. We're seeing first grades with 80% non-attendance in online learning. So there's a lot of that, making those connections and relationships matter. So that's in a nutshell. I could have said much more, but let's leave it for that because we've been on here for a long time. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Gail. It's so great to have you here. This is the magic of Zoom. We do have 3 college students who are on right now, and I just wanted to let you guys pitch in.
So I'm actually home right now, but it's definitely a lot easier being there with so many other people who are also like the same major, because I guess not this past Friday, but usually for thesis, we all go downstairs and we're all in one little Zoom box. So there is that sense of community that's still there, even though you know, like Warren, you're teaching from home and everyone else is in their
So
own little box.
some background, these guys have formed a bubble and they rented a house, or they all shared resources, and they're all in one house. So there's like, what is there, 4 of you or 5 of you?
There's 6 of us, 5 IMM majors, 4 in your class.
Zane, how are you guys doing? Or what's your experience this semester?
I think it's kind of make the best of a bad situation, I guess you'd say. I mean, I'm sure like everyone would rather be in class and everything like that, but it gives kind of me more free time, I guess. That's also me having the certain classes that I have, because I can imagine other majors aren't as lucky and they have to kind of do more work, or their teachers are less understanding and are giving them more work because they think that person has more time, which isn't true.
I've heard that a lot, just like the burnout has been. Also, I've heard that from other professors. They're absolutely fried this semester. It's been really stressful to try to, you'd think it wouldn't be, but it's the amount of planning, the amount of helping students who don't show up in the Zoom session that you got to track down and make sure they're okay. There's a lot more mental health issues. Our counseling services are very busy. Alexis, what's your experience?
It's been interesting, to say the least. I've kind of liked the idea of, I don't want to call it remote learning. I actually thought of a better name for remote learning. I'm calling it open world learning, because the internet is an open world within itself. I think it's been a lot easier for me to get distracted from school, but that's obvious. That's also probably a good thing for me, because it allows me to remind myself to take breaks, because it's important. Self-care and self-love is really important, especially right now, and also staying safe. So I think that it's been interesting, and it's been pretty good, as long as you're okay with time management. I mean, for me, it's not been the easiest because I'm taking 4 classes and I'm also a senior, so all that stress kind of comes together. But overall, I think with the help of having access to your professors like yourself, Warren, being able to talk to them about what's been going on with them, with ourselves, and just being able to sit in a space, even if it's just online, to just talk, because you kind of need that break, is really helpful.
Is that how can we leverage since we're gifted in a sense that we already have a knowledge of how to use these tools that the general population doesn't have, and we're also connected. And so there are opportunities that have jumped and bubbled up. And so I think it's smart to kind of go, hey, how can I use my existing knowledge to help a neighbor or help other people who aren't so fortunate? And so I think we've seen some really good work coming out of some of our seniors that have been definitely influenced by the pandemic. Krista, what's Sega?
I can be super quick. About a year ago, we started working with Saga, not Sega, Saga Education.
Sorry.
It was a project with the College Board, or a randomized control trial with 500 students, low income urban kids, SAT. And Saga has the most effective intervention for high school students that's ever been studied. It's a high dosage tutoring, which is why Connie, I was asking about tutoring. Anyways, we ran that for a year. We hosted 30,000 tutoring sessions. And at the end of it, they decided to acquire us. So now Woot Math is part of Saga. We'll continue to run Woot Math, but we'll also continue to run their tutoring platform. And ultimately, we hope to make it broadly available. So we're now a nonprofit. Saga's a nonprofit. And that acquisition was made possible largely by the Gates Foundation. So that's me.
Awesome. Congratulations. Chris is another example of persistence.
And you can skip these, go to the next person, because I think, they'll be here. People can look at slides after the fact.
All
That's
righty.
a screenshot of the demo. I mean, of the tutoring platform.
Where you can actually write and draw.
Well, and this manipulative. So those models the students pulled up and could build. So it also has the constructing tools that we have in Woot Math. We've put into the tutoring app, and we're adding more because, of course, they're 9th grade, and so we're adding older manipulatives.
That's cool. And then where is this slide from? I don't know who's working on it.
Oh, that one's me. Sorry. I didn't. At the beginning, when you said you wanted me to say something, I stuck a slide in at the end.
Oh, good. There it is.
Not the end anymore.
We got to it. And a link. Oh, Damon. Are you still here, Damon?
I am still here.
Another case study in persistence.
This
Give
is
us an update.
This is a venture that I've spent plenty of years at Duster Magics about over the years through all of its iterative names. But earlier this year, inspired by a professional transition and obviously COVID, we finally launched what has evolved to be Nexus Ventures. And it's effectively a platform that positions teens, so focusing on a little bit of an older set, but that positions teens to learn secure resources and work on projects that are potentially world-changing. And so it effectively is a learning management system that is combined with a social platform. And so members can join in, have access to learning modules. None of it is positioned as education. It's all positioned as agency amplification. And so, they can select challenges or create their own. And then they have access to a series of modules that are either in pre-designed tracks or that they can self-select through, kind of combining design thinking, social innovation, scientific method, sort of all of the general problem solving methods. And they can work progressively through their project and have access to live mentorship, the community itself, and other resources. So we're looking for teens to be our test brains.
How old? What's the age range?
So the lower end is 13, just because of the sort of laws and regulations. And it was initially focused on high school, but through COVID, actually raising that based on the expansion of gap years, and also realizing that there's some value add for underclassmen at the university level, at the undergrad level.
Great. Okay.
About 10 years ago, I was invited to China to help with a school based on the Sidwell Friends School in Washington, D.C., which is a school that many presidents' children have gone to. And they were having trouble and asked me to come and help. And I got to know the people, and they liked the vision that I had of helping all people learn the basics that they need. And they said, this should be an effort of government, not venture capital. And now they've arranged to have me join a nonprofit and offer learning for every age person in China, from baby, for parents when they're really little, all the way to when they're old. And we're modeling it on the Synapse School in Menlo Park, which includes in every class, even math, social emotional learning, innovation, and academics taught in the style of authentic learning. So it's quite wonderful. I'm about to launch the first 2 products, and they're both with companies that are already in China, because we deal with translation and laws there and so forth. Fenwick and West is my pro bono attorney, which is wonderful. I need a Chinese attorney because they can only practice US law there. Bill Atkinson is going to teach for me. He was the head of the design team.
Wow. Okay.
Teach wonders of science for kindergarten, which he did with me before at Nueva School.
Wait, Bill Atkinson, like Roger, you made Hyper Studio, right? Was that yours?
That's correct. Yes. And
Yeah.
Bill Atkinson's HyperCard.
Right. Well, he's a photographer. BillAtkinson.com is this photography site, and he has people make postcards, but he's just a wonderful person that's shared things with me over the years. Another is a game designer called Michael McCormick, my nephew, who worked with George Lucas directly. He did an add-on pack for The Sims. He's worked for Disney and DreamWorks and so forth. And he's going to teach programming and game design to children starting in 3rd grade. So we've got more people like that. And I really welcome all of you to either teach a class, which involves, we can have a 3-hour class, a 6-hour class, a 12-hour class, depending on the credit offered. And it'll be offered in the whole country. And it's the government of China that's inviting me to bring fresh air to the schools, because they've adopted a 60-year-old system with never being able to ask a question in your entire schooling and never having recess. And I can just imagine the oppression of that. So I'm excited to do that.
So,
and also we're going to
so
have apps and talk and so forth too.
you could have Connie come over and do one. Darren could do drawing. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
really,
and I'm in.
Yay! Fantastic. I think you know how to get me.
oh, we've been hacked.
gmail.com.
We've
Oh,
been,
and the new school is called 6Arts Academy, and soon the 6arts.academy site will launch, but it's not up yet. The programmer's creating it.
I think that picture was when Jesse Shell grabbed me in an inappropriate place. I believe.
I just wanted to say quickly that, you know, even though we don't have the river or the wine or the board games, this has been a great alternative to Duster Magic. And I have that feeling, whatever that magic feeling that I know everybody gets when we all get together. So thank you, everybody.
Michael, it is about relationships. You know, Fred Rogers is helped me understand that.
Hey, Darren, I don't think we heard from you, man. What's going on with you? Can't hear you.
No, I permanently muted Darren so that we would get through. Oh, there he is. No, I
Busy
didn't.
just kind of updating my apps, trying to get things back up to speed. So
nice.
Math. So the famous Math Arena and Math Doodles, and so yeah, those have to live on. I think they still run.
well, it's every time Apple updates, you kind of have to go back into them. So working
And
on
This
it.
year, the updates have just been, we have 13 apps to update. And it's
Right.
like when they make changes, it's just crazy. I can't stand it.
Are your apps still viable, Connie? I mean, are you going to update them?
Yeah. We've got we have 12 grandma and grandpa apps still live. We've done 7 updates in the last couple of months. So much work because all the screen sizes are changing and everything.
Right.
And then we've got
a
bunch more still to do. We've got 5 more grandma grandpa ones, and then also Smashing Grammar. We just want to get it so that it, the screen sizes fit right and there's no like black bars on the sides and stuff. So we've been busy with that, and then doing consulting. I know Jason mentioned the Sago Mini School. I've been with them now for 2 years, just working as a contract educator. That's been fantastic because it's so wonderful to work with a company that really listens and engages in dialogue about education and playful learning. And it's just been so great because when we have these discussions, then it actually goes into the design and it actually gets implemented. So it's been really very rewarding to work with them. So those have been
Man, what a
interesting.
smart move to pull you in. I didn't know that you did that. That's great.
Yeah.
It's
we
really,
kept it secret for a while.
that's nice. They're smart. They don't give away educational backgrounds like yours. We did capture a lot of great stuff, and with all the documents, my pledge to you all is that I'll try to get this out there. So, in spite of this, we can sort of get the field smart or up to speed as to know not just what to do, but what not to do. And, save some people some time and money and hopefully keep it going. And that's pretty much what Duster Magic is about. I'm starting to feel really tired. And so I'm thinking, yeah, that's that Duster Magic feeling. It's like 36 hours of exhaustion, but mixed in with joy.
It's absolutely wonderful to see everybody. I just,
Yeah, it is. It is. All right. Well, I think that we've done everything. I will formally adjourn the meeting, and maybe I'm hoping by this time next year, we'll have a new president, and we'll have a new, we'll have a vaccine, and I hope that that we all die young and in old age. Darren,
thank you.
I'll give you the last word. Darren Carsons.
Well, I got the ego. No one else has their ego.
You didn't blow it up.
Do it. Go for it. Go.
No.
Oh.
Oh. Maybe I should have covered my keyboard.
That's it. Get the dog. Get the dog.
Oh my God. All right. Wow.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, everyone. Lovely
Thanks.
to see you.
Bye-bye,
Guys.
Good to see you, everybody.
Everybody.